Chapter 634. Although the war in the southwest had ended, maintaining the peace after the war was the most important thing. But when these last words were spoken, the summit fell silent. Everyone turned to Wang Chong. The chaos of the southwest still existed, as did the threat of Duan Gichuan and Daluan Ruozan. If there was one person who could stabilize the southwest, pacify the hearts of the people, and at the same time intimidate the ambitions of Uzan and Mengshi Zhao, this person was not Wang Yan, nor was it Xinyu Zhongtong, but the 17-year-old Wang Chong. Not even Wang Chong or Xinyu Zhongtong could deny this. Generals, you are too kind. Wang Chong's eyes widened. He had been listening to their discussion from the outside, and he had not expected that the flames of war would burn him. But all of you be at ease. Before His Highness the King of Song arrives, I will not leave this place. Seeing the expectant gazes of the crowd, Wang Chong suddenly realized that he had unwittingly gained such an important position in their hearts. Everyone was treating him as the pillar that stabilized the southwest. Wonderful with young master here. The crowd rejoiced at Wang Chong's words, and one of the generals couldn't help but shout in excitement. Buzz! Wang Chong opened his mouth, and was just about to say something when Wang Chong's eyes widened, and an unprecedented sense of extreme danger surged in his heart. This sense of danger was so intense that Wang Chong felt his scalp go numb, and goosebumps rise all over his body. It felt like he had fallen from a scorching summer day into an ice house. What is this? Wang Chong was stunned. At that moment he could smell the thick stench of death. Not even in the entire War of the Southwest had he felt such a terrifying pressure. Buzz! This thought had just run through Wang Chong's mind, and the southwestern generals before him still had the same expression on their faces, not having noticed anything. But a moment later, Wang Chong felt a dark shadow envelop him, the aura of death multiplying. Not good. Wang Chong's expression changed drastically. In the blink of an eye, he leaped to the side. In the next instant, a strange pitch-black arrow that Wang Chong had never seen before brushed past Wang Chong's ear by a hair's breadth. At that moment, Wang Chong had never felt so close to death. Boom! A huge shockwave traveled into his ears, and in that instant, time seemed to have stopped. Wang Chong turned his head, and saw an unforgettable sight. A black arrow that Wang Chong had never seen before had plunged into Luoji's chest several dozen zhang away. Luoji's mouth was wide open, his eyes brimming with disbelief. Around him, the generals of the southwest stared in shock at the arrow, their faces pale. Sudden. Too sudden. No one had expected something like this to happen even after the Southwest War was over. Who is it? Who is it? The first to rush to the side was Lin Wuxia, his arms wrapped around Luoji, his expression savage. Buzz! Wang Chong's pupils constricted as he turned in the direction the arrow had come from. But the area for several dozen li around him was empty, with no one to be seen. Impossible. With a thought, Wang Chong raised his head to the horizon. At that moment, Wang Chong could faintly make out a faint black silhouette on the horizon. But it only took a moment for it to vanish without a trace. Luoji! A cry of pain came from behind him. Wang Chong's heart chilled as he turned his head and saw a bizarre sight. Luoji's body had quickly turned pitch black, his body also becoming incredibly stiff. Pop! Pa! In the space of a single breath, Luoji, who had been fighting valiantly on the battlefield just a moment ago, suddenly exploded like a black glass statue, shattering into pieces on the ground. Even those fragments were being corroded by some invisible energy, quickly carbonizing and ultimately turning into dust. All the generals of the southwest were dumbstruck by this sight, and Wang Chong's heart was as cold as ice, because this arrow had been aimed at him. If he hadn't reacted quickly and sensed the danger ahead of time, he would have been the one lying on the ground and turning into ashes. Bastard! Just who is it? Furious roars rose from the mountain, as countless generals leaped down from the mountain and charged in the direction the arrow had come from. On the other end, even the nearby recuperating Wang Yan and Xinyu Zhongtong were alarmed. In just a few seconds they had vanished into the distance. Luoji! The most agitated and hateful of all was Lin Wuxia. The two of them had been good friends in the Annam Protectorate, and they had even experienced the bitter war of the Southwest together. No one had expected Luoji to die here. Who? Just who is it? Too despicable. Is it Meng Shijiao or Uzun? They can't win on the battlefield, so they resorted to this sort of method. The generals of the Southwest returned. Unable to find their target at the base of the mountain, they returned to the mountain. When they saw Luoji's wretched state, they were both shocked and furious. As a fellow general of the Southwest, they could empathize with Luoji's fate. Too shameless. Meng Shijiao and Uzun must pay the price. Although they hadn't seen who the assassin was, there was no doubt that if it wasn't Meng Shijiao, it had to be one of Uzun's men. At a time like this, only they had the chance to do this. It wasn't them. At some point, Wang Chong suddenly spoke. His eyes narrowed, exuding a cold light. They've already lost the war of the Southwest. Killing Luoji, or one or two random people, won't change this fact. Given Daluan Ruozhen's personality, he would never stoop so low as to do such a thing. As for Meng Shijiao, Jelifeng's fate is unknown, and Duan Gichuan isn't in the mood to do such a thing, so there's no one else who could do it. In addition, all of you should look around. The entire mountain range is surrounded by our soldiers. How could the Mengshi, Yusang army hide here and kill someone? Wang Chong's voice was very cold. Very, very cold. There was no doubt that Luoji had died in his place. Wang Chong had never imagined that he would encounter such a thing at the final moments of the war. But young master, if it wasn't Meng Shijiao and Uzun's men, who else would do such a thing? And what's with that arrow? That was what everyone had seen. Could it have been pulled out of thin air? Several of the generals said with bloodshot eyes. Even though they were all excited, they still maintained a considerable amount of respect for Wang Chong. If it hadn't been Wang Chong and someone else, the result would have been completely different. It's precisely because of this arrow that I say that it wasn't Meng Shijiao and Uzun's men. As Wang Chong spoke, he suddenly took 2 steps forward and bent down. From Luoji's ashes, he picked up that pitch-black arrow that had pierced through Luoji and stabbed into the ground. The arrowhead of the arrow was gone, leaving behind only the black tail of the arrow. It was an extremely bizarre sight. When they thought of Luoji's miserable state, all of them shivered. Uzun doesn't have such formidable archery skills, and Meng Shijiao's archery skills all came from the Central Plains. Just the 2 of them alone wouldn't have been able to forge an arrow of this level. If they really had this ability, the situation today would have been completely different. Wang Chong said. He stared at the arrow in his hand and carefully examined it. In Wang Chong's entire life, he had never seen an arrow of this level. Even though only the tail of the arrow was left, the terrifying and pure destructive power contained within made even Wang Chong feel apprehensive when he held it in his hand. Not only that, the body and tail of the arrow, as well as the extremely concise and clear curves that secretly conformed to the laws of heaven and earth. Even the most formidable blacksmith clan in the capital wouldn't be able to forge such an arrow. The craftsmanship behind the extreme curves surpassed any arrow that Wang Chong had ever seen. It had reached the level of uncanny craftsmanship. This wasn't something that an ordinary person could forge. Moreover, when his gaze swept past a mark on the body of the arrow, Wang Chong's heart trembled, and he didn't continue speaking. On the other side, the crowd fell silent. Indeed, in terms of craftsmanship, the Central Plains Tang dynasty was truly unrivaled. Given Meng Shijiao and Uzun's abilities, if they could really forge such a terrifying black arrow, then on the battlefield today, they would probably have to face a fearsome archer army. But Gongzi, if it wasn't Meng Shijiao and Uzun, who could it be? A general couldn't help but ask. Even though Wang Chong's words made sense, it was a clear fact that Luoji had been killed. If it wasn't Meng Shijiao and Uzun, then who was it that was trying to assassinate him? What was the point of assassinating him? Isn't this too absurd and preposterous? Wang Chong didn't say anything, but in his mind, he vaguely saw that black silhouette on the horizon at the very last moment. He was sure that this mysterious black arrow had not been fired from anywhere within 10 li of him, because it was simply impossible for someone to fire this arrow from 10 li away from the Tang dynasty's army without being noticed. But if it really was as he imagined, that distance, then the opponent's strength was far too terrifying. Hiss! Wang Chong took in a deep breath and stopped thinking about it. If the black arrow hadn't been fired by Daluan Ruozhen or Duan Gichuan, then it could only have been fired by a third party. Why would they do this, and why would they choose this moment? More importantly, why was it him? For a moment, Wang Chong felt like the entire war of the Southwest was shrouded in fog. Besides Izan and Meng Shizhao, there seemed to be something else he didn't know about. Leave this matter to me. No matter what, I will definitely find a way to find out who shot this arrow. Wang Chong gripped the arrow in his right hand and suddenly tightened his grip. In the final moments of the War of the Southwest, Luoji had died to a mysterious black arrow. No one had expected this, but only a scant few people knew of this matter. Not even the vast majority of the Annam Protectorate soldiers knew of it, much less anyone else. Chapter 635. Flap Flap. Countless carrier pigeons flapped their wings as they flew off in every direction, bringing the news of the victory in the southwest to various places. 7 or 8 li from the capital, an army of brightly armored soldiers was neatly organized and somber as they made their way along the official road toward the southwest. At the very front of this army was a middle-aged man exuding a noble aura. He was seated on a white steed, his eyes looking to the south with a hint of worry. The southwest battlefield had been persisting for more than a month, almost 2 months. But the imperial court had not been able to muster a single soldier. 2 months was an extremely long time for the southwest, but for the massive empire, which involved the mobilization of resources from all sides, it was simply not enough. Although the Bureau of Military Personnel, Bureau of Personnel, and Bureau of Agriculture were doing their utmost, it was still not enough. The King of Song had also done his utmost, overriding the objections of the masses and transferring 30,000 soldiers from the imperial army. Only then did he manage to gather 70,000 well-trained soldiers capable of battle and send them to the southwest. But truthfully speaking, not even the King of Song was confident that these 70,000 soldiers would be of any use. After all, the Mengshi, Yusang side had more than 500,000 soldiers. But the southwest was a major affair, and the King of Song had no choice but to go. Moreover, it involved Wang Chong. Wang Chong, this king is already doing his utmost. I hope that you can hold on. I hope that I can still make it in time. The King of Song quietly said to himself as he gazed at the overcast sky. News had long ago come from the capital that Wang Chong and the Annam Protectorate had been surrounded by the Mengshi, Yusang army on a mountain, and were in dire straits. There was even a rumor that by the time the imperial court received the news, Wang Chong and the 180,000 soldiers of the Annam Protectorate would already be dead. Although the King of Song had always refused to believe it, deep within his heart, he knew that it was already quite impressive that Wang Chong and the others had been able to last so long against opponents like Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wuzong, Jelifeng, and Duan Gichuan. The final outcome was likely to be disastrous. Thud thud thud. All of a sudden, the sound of wings breaking through the air came from the sky. The King of Song was stunned and raised his head subconsciously. He saw a huge eagle flapping its wings and descending toward him. Protect the King of Song. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the side, followed by the sound of an arrow being drawn. Stop! The King of Song frowned and rebuked the archers. At the same time, he extended his arm and allowed the giant eagle to land on it. He vaguely remembered that this giant eagle seemed to be the pet of the man called the Eagle by Wang Chong's side. He was originally a member of the Bureau of Military Personnel, and he had contributed greatly to the capture of the Gogrian assassins and King Sojurim. The King of Song had even met him once. More importantly, this giant eagle's leg was tied to a leggings. It's news from Wang Chong. In that instant, the King of Song felt a bad premonition. The eagle was someone by Wang Chong's side. Could it be that the King of Song reached out and removed the leggings from the eagle's leg? Ha ha ha, this is great. This is great. The next moment, the frown on the King of Song's face eased, and he burst into laughter. In that instant, everyone was dumbfounded. This was especially so for those from the King of Song residence. They had been by the King of Song's side for a very long time. And during this period of time, The King of Song had been unable to eat or sleep well. This was the first time they had seen the King of Song laugh so happily and carefreely. It was as if the gloom that had plagued him for the past few days had been swept away. Wang Chong, you've given this king too much of a pleasant surprise. The King of Song held the unwrapped news from the leggings, his face red with laughter, his eyes brimming with joy. Hurry and pass on this king's order. Tell the imperial court that we've won a major victory in the southwest. Rumble. The last 5 words sent the army of 70,000 into an uproar. Everyone was dumbfounded, their faces filled with disbelief. On this trip to the southwest, everyone had been prepared to die. But what had they heard? A major victory in the southwest. It can't be wrong. It's stamped with the seals of Wang Yan and the Annam Protectorate. The major victory in the southwest is already beyond doubt. The civil and military officials of the imperial court must have all been ranked. Hurry and pass on this news. This is the best news the Tang dynasty has heard in recent times. The King of Song roared with laughter. Wang Chong. It was Wang Chong again. The King of Song had never imagined that he would give him such a pleasant surprise. An army of 100,000 against an army of 500,000. And they had even defeated generals like Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wuzong, Duan Gichuan and Jelifeng. This was nothing short of a miracle. Not even he knew how Wang Chong had done it. But the news would not lie, and neither would the seal. More importantly, it had Wang Yan's personal signature. Anyone could lie, but Wang Yan was upright, and the seal of the Annam Protectorate's army would not lie. Pass on my order. All soldiers are to head southwest. Travel day and night, and set out immediately. The King of Song's voice resounded through the heavens. In the next moment, the army set off with a rumble, their speed several times faster than before. As the army set out, countless carrier pigeons flew toward the capital of the Tang dynasty. In the northeast corner of the imperial palace, there were many halls with flying eaves and arches. Several guards dressed in golden embroidered robes stood there motionlessly like statues. These were the profound secrets guard of the palace. They only had one mission: to receive news from inside and outside the palace. Other than that, they were not allowed to act rashly. Walala! Suddenly, the sound of fluttering wings came from the sky. The guards were startled and raised their heads, only to see a white messenger pigeon drawing a curve in the sky, accurately landing on a corner of the eaves that wasn't very high. This is... A hint of confusion flashed through the golden-robed guard's eyes. He subconsciously walked up and took the leggings off the pigeon's legs. It's a letter from King Qi. The guard came back to his senses. He took 2 steps forward and undid the leggings. With just a glance, the guard staggered and almost fell to the ground. Great! My lord to the west. We've won a great victory in the southwest. The guard waved the letter in his hand, his entire body in excitement as he subconsciously began to run forward. Boom! When the news on the letter spread, the entire imperial palace was thrown into an uproar. The War of the Southwest had lasted for nearly 2 months. By now, even the maids and eunuchs of the palace knew that the War of the Southwest was the greatest event in the empire. No one had expected that the Southwest War would be won. The entire imperial palace was abuzz with joy. As the King of Song's carrier pigeon flew into the imperial palace, another carrier pigeon flew into the estate of the Wang clan of the western part of the city. What? A great victory in the southwest. Chonger actually won. Wang Chong's big uncle, Wang Zhen, gripped the armrests of his chair and stood up, his beard trembling in excitement. Master, it's absolutely true. It's a letter from the King of Song, and there's even the King of Song's seal on it. There's no doubt about it. A guard of the Wang clan below the hall confirmed once more. Wonderful! Wonderful! Wang Zhen's eyes were moist, his expression one of excitement. Wang Yan, Wang Fu, and Wang Chong were 3 descendants of the Wang clan, who were on the southwest battlefield. Inside and outside the capital, in all levels of the imperial court, no one was paying more attention to the southwest than Wang General Wang Zhen, had woken up in the middle of the night many times, unable to sleep, precisely because he thought about the southwest battlefield, because he thought about how Wang Yan, Wang Fu, and Wang Chong might have died in the southwest. Alas, there was nothing he could do. The current imperial court had no more soldiers to use. Even if he was an important official in the imperial court, he was still powerless. The 70,000 soldiers led by the king of Song was the last force the imperial court could send. But Wang Zhen had never expected that the king of Song would send news of a great victory in the southwest, not long after he set off, not even having reached the southwest. The 100,000 soldiers of the Tang dynasty had actually defeated the 500,000 soldiers of the Mengshi, Yusang army led by Daluan Ruozhen and Jelifeng. This news was far too shocking. If he had not heard it with his own ears, Wang Zhen would have never believed it. But Wang Zhen knew that the king of Song would never lie about something like this. Chong'er, I just knew that you wouldn't disappoint me. Wang Zhen was so excited that he lost his composure. Someone, prepare my official robes. I want to go to court immediately. Ha ha ha. Today is the day that our Tang dynasty can hold its head high. And it is also the day that our Wang clan can hold its head high. Hurry. Wang Zhen's laughter resounded over the residence. Not even the old servants who had worked in the residence for decades had ever seen him laugh so heartily. A few moments later, a carriage drove out of the residence toward the imperial palace. This is impossible. In another part of the capital, a middle-aged man dressed in imperial robes with a hawkish gaze slammed his palm down, shattering a sturdy sandalwood table next to him. Your Highness, our people in the Profound Guard have already received news that the news of the victory in the southwest has already spread throughout the imperial palace. There is no doubt about this. Not far away, a burly man who looked like a general said in a low voice. How could this be? What does Daluan Ruozhen do? And what about Jelifeng? What about Duan Gichuan? Aren't these people supposed to be famed generals of the southwest? They still have an army of more than 500,000. How could they be defeated by a brat who still smells of his mother's milk? King Qi's eyes were wide open in fury, his expression savage and frightening. He didn't care about the battlefield in the southwest at all. The massive imperial court and the massive Tang dynasty were not things that Jelifeng and Daluan Ruozhen could move. But what he cared about was how the Wang clan father and son had led the Annam Protectorate to defeat the Mengshi, Yusang army. The Wang clan had always been a clan of ministers and generals, and they had always cooperated with the king of Song in opposing him. Now that they had made such a great contribution, they were like a tiger that had grown wings. Wouldn't it be even more difficult to deal with them in the future? If he wanted to deal with the king of Song in the future, it would be even more impossible. Your Highness, we still don't know the specifics, but they all say that the brat of the Wang clan has a terrifying grasp of the art of war. Not even Daluan Ruozhen was a match for him. That brat is probably a great calamity for us. A thin man in the hall who seemed to be a strategist said. Slap. Prince Qi raised his leg and kicked, shattering a small chair made of reddish-purple sandalwood, interrupting the strategist's words. What calamity? What mastery of the art of war? Can a 17-year-old brat overturn the heavens? King Qi's furious voice resounded through the residence. In a flash, the entire King Qi residence was deathly still. Everyone was as quiet as cicadas in winter, and even the general and strategist did not dare to speak. Pass on my order. Immediately send people to the southwest to investigate. I want to know what's going on. King Qi was almost roaring with rage at the last word. Chapter 636. Wang Bo actually had this sort of grandson. In the Four Quarters courtyard, Old Master Yao Chong of the Yao clan slammed his cane against the ground and stood up. The mood in the room instantly changed. At this moment, even with his eyes closed, Yao Guangyi could sense his father's shock and agitation. As a former prime minister of the Great Tang, his father had weathered countless storms and waves, and he had also avoided countless assassinations in the court. Even during the War of the Princes, when all the dragons were vying for the throne, his father had remained calm and composed. But when the news of the victory in the southwest arrived, his father was so shocked that he lost his composure. Father, everything is still just rumors. There's still no concrete evidence. Perhaps everything is just a rumor. Perhaps the southwest is different from what we imagine. Yao Guangyi consoled. Guangyi, You've been an important official of the court and a general on the border for so many years. Can't you even tell if the news is real or fake? The Yao old master slammed his cane against the ground and glanced at Yao Guangyi, his eyes filled with disappointment. Then father means, Yao Guangyi uneasily said. The southwest is the gateway to the Tang dynasty. It concerns the Tang dynasty, Mengshi Zhao, and Uzan. It also concerns the future fate and future of the Tang dynasty. If the southwest fails, do you know what the consequences will be for the Tang dynasty? The eastern and western Turkic Khaganates, the Goguryeo Empire, the Khitans, the Shi, the kingdoms of the western regions, the Abbasid Caliphate and Karak-Spazinu. How do you think they will react? Yao Guangyi stared in a daze at his father, unable to react. Why did it seem like his father was standing with the Wang clan? Guangyi, although we stand on different sides from the Wang clan, this matter has nothing to do with the Wang clan. It has to do with the Tang dynasty. Do you know why our Yao clan has always enjoyed the boundless grace of the emperor and never waned? It's not because we're fighting with the Wang clan, not because we're fighting with the king of Song, and certainly not because we're standing with King Qi. It's because our Yao clan puts the interests of the Tang dynasty above all else. Guangyi, although you're experienced, you're still a little lacking. Yao Chong looked at his son with disappointment in his eyes. He had fought with Wang Juling for most of his life, and had never lost to him. However, in terms of descendants, he had truly lost. Not only was the Wang clan prosperous, but they also had someone like Wang Chong. Yao Chong searched the entire Yao clan, but he couldn't find a single person who could be mentioned in the same breath as Wang Chong. Even Yao Guangyi couldn't compare, let alone the others. I didn't expect the Wang clan to produce such a character. I've suppressed the Wang clan for half my life. Perhaps 100 years later, the descendants of the Yao clan will have to look up to the Wang clan. Old Master Yao heaved a long sigh in his heart and remained silent for a long time. Old Master, the imperial court has sent a report. They want Old Master Yao to enter the court and immediately participate in the court meeting. A voice suddenly came from outside the door. Yao Guangyi shuddered and turned around. Ha ha ha, victory! Young Master Wang actually won. Our Tang dynasty has won. At this moment, the Cheng, Huang, Lu, and Zhang great swordsmithing clans were rejoicing. The residences of the great clans were decorated with festive red lanterns, and even the swordsmiths and sword shops of the capital were decorated with lanterns and streamers in celebration. News from the imperial court rarely made its way to the marketplace, but this time was different. The moment the news from the southwest reached the capital, the imperial court seemed to have the intention of immediately spreading the news. In the last 2 months, the entire capital had been in a state of anxiety and trepidation. All sorts of unsettling news had flown in like snowflakes. At a time like this, they truly needed news of a major victory. The weapons that young master used in his campaign in the southwest, the bows, arrows, and ballistae, were all forged by us. With this major victory in the southwest, the imperial court will definitely reward us handsomely. The 4 great swordsmithing clans, and the various swordsmiths and sword shops of the capital were all ecstatic. When they had been forging all sorts of weapons for Wang Chong, none of them had imagined that Wang Chong would be able to use these weapons to defeat Uzan and Mengshi Zhao in the southwest. Now that Wang Chong had won a major victory, all of them were sharing in the glory. What? The southwest was won? The southwest was actually won. In the estate of a great clan in the capital, a dignified clan head stood up in shock, his face brimming with disbelief. Young Master Chong of the Wang clan actually defeated Daluan Ruozan and Jelifeng? Impossible, simply too impossible. The news from the southwest was shocking to all the clans, especially those who had a relationship with the Wang clan and had loaned their experts to Wang Chong. This is a gargantuan achievement. I didn't think that this young master would be so formidable. At this moment, all the clan heads had an extremely deep, awe-inspiring impression of that young master of the Wang clan, who had used Wuxia steel weapons to exchange for guards. Using 100,000 soldiers to fight against 500,000 soldiers, including a considerable number of cavalry, was a magnificent feat that would strike fear into the hearts of most people. It seems like we have to reconsider our relationship with the Wang clan. Relying on that young master is far more important than exchanging for a few woozy steel weapons. On this day, all the clan heads of the great clans of the capital were destined to witness it. Ha ha ha, he won. Senior brother Wang actually won. Our deflecting blade manor has finally made a name for itself. Senior brother Wang is simply a god. With him in our Kunwa training camp, we'll definitely be able to suppress the other two training camps. Ha ha ha, let's all go join deflecting blade manor. It was established by young Master Wang, so I'm willing to watch the gate for him. When the news of Wang Chang's victory in the southwest reached the Kunwa training camp, it immediately caused a massive upheaval. Zhao Qianqiu, who was playing chess in deflecting blade manor, almost shattered the chessboard under his feet. Is this true? Zhao Qianqiu stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Although he had sensed Wang Chang's talent on the first day, he entered the Kunwa training camp and had determined that he was no ordinary person. Zhao Qianqiu had never imagined that Wang Chong would be able to accomplish such a feat. Daluan Ruozhen and Duan Gichuan were figures that Zhao Qianqiu didn't even dare to think about. But Wang Chong had actually defeated them in a head-on battle, and in a situation where the other side had the advantage in numbers. Unbelievable. This is too unbelievable. Zhao Qianqiu's chest heaved, unable to calm down for a long time. The entire capital from north to south, south, north, and south, from the nobility to the common people, was abuzz with joy. Cheers could be heard from all over the city, and many people even lit firecrackers in celebration. But at this moment, the most enthusiastic was not the common people, but the imperial court. Deep within the imperial palace, in Taiji Palace, all the civil and military officials of the court had gathered together with the Prince of Xiang and Marquis of Xiang. Ha ha ha, this is the best news the court has heard so far. Wang Zhen, Duke Jiu has given birth to a fine grandson. Your Wang clan has produced yet another pillar of the empire. In the imperial court, imperial censor Lu Ji's hair was grizzled, and he was 70 or 80 years old, but his face was ruddy. As soon as he entered the court, he clasped Wang Zhen's hands and began to shower him with praise. The old imperial censor was very old and had not attended court for many years. His status in the court was even higher than that of the other old imperial censor, Duan Chao. But this time, for the sake of Wang Chong and the victory in the southwest, he had dressed up to attend the court session. Wang Chong was only 17, but the old imperial censor had described him as a pillar of the empire. This was not something that a normal person could accept, but none of the civil and military officials dared to refute him. The victory in the southwest was simply too great. Based on the initial reports from the southwest, the Tang dynasty had lost around 160,000 soldiers. Even if Li Jingyi's reinforcements that had been ambushed were added up to 180,000 to 190,000. But Uzun and Meng Shizhao had lost more than 400,000 soldiers, more than double the Tang dynasties. Moreover, a significant portion of these casualties had been Uzun's famed and ferocious cavalry. This victory would stun the entire world. One could easily imagine the joy in the old imperial censor's heart. Old imperial censor, you praise me too much. Wang Zhen hurriedly said. Liaozan, how is it praised? Wang Zhen, your Wang clan is now a great contributor to the Tang dynasty. Uzun and Meng Shizhao have lost so many soldiers in battle that they won't be able to invade the southwest for at least the next few decades. Wang Zhen had barely finished speaking when the Minister of Personnel and a group of officials immediately surrounded him. That's right. Today, the Wang clan is the greatest contributor to our Tang dynasty. There is no need for Lord Wang to be so modest. Precisely. Once young Master Wang returns from the southwest, His Majesty will surely reward you handsomely. For the Wang clan to have such a Qilin son is the blessing of our Tang dynasty. Young Master Chong already has the grace of your esteemed father. The officials of the Bureau of Revenue, Bureau of Personnel, Bureau of Military Personnel, Bureau of Agriculture, and the nobles of the court all gathered around to congratulate Wang General. This was especially true for those nobles. Normally, it would be quite impressive if even half of them could gather here. But today, upon hearing the news of the victory in the southwest, All the nobles of the empire had gathered here. Lord Wang, when you have the time, please come to my residence for a gathering. Especially young Master Wang. When Lord Wang comes, please bring young Master Wang with you. That's right, that's right. When young Master Wang comes, our Duke Zhao residence will be ready to welcome you. I hear that young Master Wang is already 17, past the age of pinning the crown. It's about time for you to discuss marriage. I have an only daughter, and her character and appearance are both excellent. Would Lord Wang be willing to play the matchmaker? Our Wang clan and Zhang clan can also form a marriage alliance. Duke Zhang, this isn't appropriate. I also have a daughter under my name, and she's an excellent talent. In the imperial court, Wang Zhen was surrounded by the officials. Wang Zhen's face was glowing, and he was grinning from ear to ear. In his decades in the imperial court, this could be said to be his happiest day. In the entire imperial court, Wang Zhen and the Wang clan he represented were the undisputed stars. Even the prime minister of the Tang dynasty had been suppressed by him. Chapter 637. Bastard. This king is going to die from anger. In the hall, next to the coiling dragon pillar, King Qi clenched his teeth and clenched his fists, his face ashen and unsightly. He wanted to ignore the smug looks on the faces of the Wang clan and Wang Zhen. But on this occasion, the victory in the southwest, the entire country was celebrating. As an imperial prince of the Tang dynasty, a member of the royal family, he had to attend. On the other side, Tongluo Great General Abusi also had a nasty complexion. He had not forgotten Wang Chong's accusations against him in the regional commander's incident. Moreover, his only son Abu Tong had been hung on a flagpole in the Kunwa training camp by Wang Chong, humiliated and humiliated. But if even an imperial prince of the Tang dynasty like King Qi could not say anything, much less him. Damn it! I'll let you be smug for a while. I'd like to see how long you can stay smug for. In the hall, the officials who had always been King Qi's subordinates, and were at odds with the Wang clan, and the King of Song all had nasty expressions on their faces. But no matter how unconvinced they were, they had no choice but to shut their mouths and not utter a single word. Clang! The crisp sound of a bell in Taiji Hall attracted everyone's attention. All subjects hear the decree. The Holy Emperor's lofty and dignified voice came from behind the high bead curtains. Have Wang Chong return to the capital as soon as the King of Song arrives in the southwest. There can be no delay. Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! In an instant all the officials, nobles, generals, and ministers kneeled on the ground. The hall fell silent. Boom! With the Holy Emperor's order, the news quickly spread throughout the world. Even the slowest person knew that Wang Chong had made a great contribution to the victory in the southwest. If the Holy Emperor summoned him back to the capital, he would surely be heavily rewarded. From this moment onwards, the Wang clan would become indescribably noble. After the Wang clan old master, the Wang clan had finally produced another pillar of the empire, whose name could shake the world. Elder brother, we bet on the right one. After the court meeting, no one knew that in the depths of the imperial palace, in the Yuzhen palace, consort Taizhen was sitting on a bed. She slowly put down a piece of silk with the song of purity and peace written on it, and let out a long sigh. Her expression was extremely relaxed. She already knew about the Holy Emperor's arrangements for Wang Chong as soon as the court meeting ended. That's right, ha ha ha. Who would have thought that I, Yang Zhao, would have such an amazing sworn brother? Even famous generals like Daluan Ruozhen and Jelifeng were defeated by him. Sister, with such a sworn brother, our position in the palace will be as stable as Mount Tai. Yang Zhao looked at consort Taizhen in front of him with his hands behind his back, and a smug expression on his face. But the effects of the victory in the southwest were not limited to the capital. While the entire capital was in an uproar, countless carrier pigeons flew like rain to the borders of the Tang dynasty. At the western border of the Tang dynasty, at the border of Longxi. What? The southwest border was won? Daluan Ruozhen and Jelifeng were defeated? In the westernmost part of Longxi, in Big Dipper City, the tall and handsome Big Dipper Great General of the Tang dynasty stood like a spear on the city walls. Across from him was an endless army of Uzun cavalry. The usually calm and composed Geshu Han, who would remain unperturbed even if Mount Tai were to collapse, also revealed a shocked expression upon hearing the news from the southwest. If he remembered correctly, Daluan Ruozhen and Jelifeng were ambitious and ruthless characters of the southwest, who stood on equal footing with the Annan Protector General and current Minister of War, Zhangqiu Jianxiong. Geshu Han had never fought with Jelifeng or Daluan Ruozhen, and he had never even seen them in person. But Daluan Ruozhen had seen Zhangqiu Jianxiong before. Even if the Tiger of the Empire of the Southwest truly did have some outstanding qualities, Daluan Ruozhen was still a formidable opponent. One could easily imagine the abilities of Daluan Ruozhen and Zheluofeng to keep someone like Zhangqiu Jianxiong in the southwest, forcing him to find a way to enter the imperial court and become Minister of War. But the southwest had been won. Without Zhangqiu Jianxiong or any other imperial great general, relying only on Wang Yan and Xinyu Zhongtong, they had managed to defeat the 500,000 soldiers of the Mengxi Yusang alliance. Not even Geshu Han dared to imagine such a thing. Is this brat really that capable? Is the news confirmed? Are there no other reinforcements? Geshu Han's eyes widened as he held the letter. He had been holding this letter for some time now, but even now, Geshu Han found it hard to believe. That brat who had jumped up and down during the regional commander's incident and recklessly criticized him, and the other protector generals, actually had this sort of ability? This was far too astonishing. Great General, this matter is absolutely true, and it's not just us. Right now, similar news is being sent to the other protector generals and great generals on the border. On a mountain in the southwest, the youngest son of the Wang clan, Wang Chong, used an army of 100,000 to fight against the 500,000 soldiers of Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wizang, Jelifeng, and Duan Gichuan. In the end, he completely routed them, killing more than 400,000 soldiers. This is already a fact that is set in stone. Daluan Ruozhen has already retreated to the territory of the Ngari royal lineage on the Uzun Plateau, and Jelifeng seems to have been heavily injured. She's currently by the Arai, her fate unknown. Nearby, a spy general of the Big Dipper army was bowing, his head hanging low. Buzz! Geshu Han said nothing, but his eyes couldn't help but twitch. Even he couldn't help but be moved by this accomplishment. Whether it was Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wizang, or Duan Gichuan, they were all famed generals of the present age. Without Uitadra Konglo and Dusong Mangpoch holding them back, even if he led the Big Dipper army south, he would have no problem stopping them. But to completely rouse them, not even Geshu Han had the confidence to do so. Those who could reach the level of great general were not too far apart in strength, and the majority of them had their own unique skills. They were not so easy to defeat. Every generation has its own geniuses. I didn't think that our Tang dynasty would also have such a peerless general. Geshu Han, this is a blessing for the Tang dynasty. There were light footsteps as a familiar figure exuding a dignified and tyrannical aura slowly walked out. My lord! Geshu Han hurriedly lowered his head at the sight of the crown prince's junior guardian, the war god of the Tang dynasty, Wang Zhongxi. Although he was already the commander of the Big Dipper army in Longxi, the Big Dipper great general of the Tang dynasty, Geshu Han would always treat Wang Zhongxi as a subordinate. My lord! Behind him, the others also hurriedly bowed. Wang Zhongxi waved his hand. The consecutive days of intense battles caused a trace of exhaustion to faintly appear on his face. However, his eyes were still sharp and peerlessly fierce. Anyone who stood in front of these eyes would faintly feel a sense of reverence and submission. In truth, there were very few people in the world who dared to stand in front of Wang Zhongxi and fight with him. If Uzun had not sent Uitadra Konglo, the king of generals who had fought with Wang Zhongxi before, he probably would not have been able to hold on. Geshu, perhaps you still don't know. That child is in the Ghost Tree district in the western part of the city, and he defeated the old war god So Yung-sun in a game of chess. Wang Zhongxi said. What? Hearing the name So Yung-sun, Geshu Han's entire body trembled in shock, and he raised his head. The legendary war god So Yung-sun of Emperor Taizong's era? The one whose status in the Tang dynasty far surpassed that of his own superior, Wang Zhongxi? Wasn't he supposed to be dead? That boy from the Wang clan had actually defeated him in a game of chess? How was this possible? Geshu Han's shock was no trifling matter. In the entire Tang dynasty, it was publicly acknowledged that the strongest was not the crown prince's junior guardian, Wang Zhongxi, but the legendary war god So Yung's son. Everything about him was shrouded in mystery and legends. Even Geshu Han, the Big Dipper great general, would feel awe and veneration at the mention of that old war god. Of all the generals of the Tang dynasty, not a single one of them had the right to stand before that old senior. Not even his own superior, Wang Zhongxi. From this one could see his status. But Wang Zhongxi actually said that Wang Chong had defeated him in a game of chess? It wasn't that Geshu Han didn't believe it, but this matter was far too absurd. The art of war was the art of chess. Any general with even the slightest bit of skill in the art of war would know this. Didn't this mean that the boy was even more formidable than So Yung's son? How was this possible? Geshu Han didn't believe it. I'm not sure about the specifics either. This matter has only been circulating within a small circle, but old Senior Su didn't die. Moreover, that person from the Wang clan defeated him in the Ghost Tree district. This is something that I'm certain of. I also obtained similar information in the palace. Wang Zhongxi said. Geshu Han fell silent. He could choose not to believe the words of others, but he had no choice but to believe Wang Zhongxi's words. Rumble. Suddenly, the heavens shook, and a massive rumble attracted everyone's attention. They're retreating. Uzin's soldiers are retreating. Someone on top of the city gate tower yelled. Geshu Han and Wang Zhongxi turned their heads and saw that across from Big Dipper City, on the high Uzin Plateau, a plume of dust was suddenly rising into the air. Amidst this cloud of dust were the dazzling banners of the White Lion. Countless Uzin cavalry carrying these banners suddenly began to retreat to the extreme west. Wah! Whoa! The Big Dipper soldiers on the walls couldn't help but cheer. After fighting for so long and facing so many fierce attacks every day, in the end, Weitadra Konglo and Dusong Mengpoch had finally retreated with their Uzin cavalry. Geshu Han and Wang Zhongxi looked at each other in dismay. Weitadra Konglo and Dusong Mengpoch had retreated. This time, even without the letter from the imperial court, Geshu Han and Wang Zhongxi could be sure that victory had truly been won in the southwest. Without the strategic goal that they had relied on, the war in Longxi had become meaningless. The Tang dynasty had won. Bastard! A furious roar shook the entire Qixi Protectorate headquarters. How could a 17-year-old brat be so formidable? Investigate again. Investigate again. Investigate again for me. Unlike the other generals, when the news of Wang Chong's victory over Daluan Ruozhen and Jelifeng arrived, Qixi Protector General Fomin Linta felt like his lungs were about to explode. Qixi's position was special. It had always been connected to Qinghai and Gansu, between the eastern and western Turks and the Uzin. It was a crucial route between the interior of the Tang dynasty and the towns of Annan. Thus, no matter what kind of war it was, Fomin Linta would not easily leave. Chapter 638. In the Regional Commanders Incident, Wang Chong's petition to separate the Manchus from the Han showed that his intentions were reprehensible. He had ruined a great opportunity for the Hu of the Tang dynasty, and as a Hu Protector General, Fomin Linta had always taken this matter to heart. Thus, in his rage, he had submitted a petition to have Wang Chong executed. But Fomin Linta had never imagined that he would receive this sort of news. That ignorant and incompetent brat in Fomin Linta's eyes had actually defeated the combined army of Daluan Ruozhen and Jelifeng in the southwest, killing more than 400,000 soldiers and rendering a gargantuan service. If this continued, wouldn't that brat be impossible to deal with? The existence of such a person in the Tang dynasty imperial court was extremely disadvantageous to the Hu generals on the border. How could Fomin Linta be happy when he learned of this matter? Send scouts to the southwest. I have to know what's going on here. I don't believe that a brat still wet behind the ears could have this sort of ability. Fomin Linta's voice resounded over the entire protectorate headquarters. In the distant 4 garrisons of Anxi, and the biting protectorate in the extreme north, Gaoxianji, and Sishan, This day was destined to be an unforgettable one for the commanders of the Tang dynasty on the border. While the eastern and western Turkic Khaganates, the kingdoms of the western regions, Karak-Spazinu, the Abbasid Caliphate, Goguryeo, the Khitans, and the Shi were increasing their forces around the Tang dynasty's borders. The greatest opportunity and change had actually come from the southwest of the Tang dynasty, which was viewed as the most dangerous, and most likely to fall. Chongqing. It seems like we underestimated that brat from the Wang clan, who just came out of prison. In the residence of the Annan Protectorate headquarters, a handsome man with a dignified face and an aura as vast as the mountains and seas sat on a rosewood armchair. He held an exquisite teacup in his left hand, as he slowly put down the letter in his hand. 180,000 against 560,000. He can kill 400,000. To be able to defeat Jelifeng and Dalun Ruozhen like this, I really can't imagine how a 17-year-old boy could be so powerful. In front of Gao Xianji, a short, ugly man with a dark face and a hunchback was sitting on the ground without any grace. He was holding his chin with one hand and thinking silently. Even though his face was extremely ugly and disgusting, the hunchbacked dark-faced man's eyes were exceptionally bright, clear, and full of wisdom. In all of Anxi, only Feng Chongqing could be so unrestrained in front of Gao Xianji, an imperial great general who controlled the 4 garrisons of Anxi and had resisted the Abbasid Caliphate and Karak-Spazinu. In the regional commander's incident, a memorial to promote the Han, promote the who had infuriated Gao Xianji, but not even Gao Xianji, the famed commander of the western border, could have expected that such an urgent matter involving the southwest would ultimately be resolved by that ignorant and incompetent Han brat, who tried to please the crowd with claptrap. Moreover, he had defeated Dalun Ruozhen and Jelifeng, and killed more than 400,000 soldiers. Not even the commanding general of Anxi, Gao Xianji, could ignore such an illustrious achievement. And when he thought about the regional commander's incident, Gao Xianji's view was completely different. No matter how he did it, there's no doubt about this matter. It seems like the Tang dynasty is about to gain another imperial great general. Gao Xianji said. These last words caused Feng Chongqing's entire body to tremble. His mouth agape as he stared in shock at his commander. He only knew that the victory in the southwest was no small matter, and that the imperial court was certain to reward Wang Chong. But he had never imagined that Gao Xianji would raise him to the level of imperial great general. Just how old was that child? From the founding of the Tang dynasty to the reigning holy emperor, there had never been a 17-year-old who had been made a great general. Even Gao Xianji had been made a great general in his 30s. To think that Gao Xianji would have such a high evaluation of him. It had to be known that the two of them had a grudge over the regional commander's incident. Feng Chongqing sat on the ground in a daze, momentarily speechless. In the Biting Protectorate, the nominal Vice Protector General was actually Protector General in Sishan. Upon receiving the news, he swiftly dispatched countless scouts to the southwest. Of all the border regions, the victory in the southwest had the greatest impact on Biting. This was because the Biting Protectorate had been simultaneously attacked by the eastern and western Turkic Khaganates. The combined forces of the two Turkic Khaganates numbered at least 500,000 to 600,000 soldiers, so one could easily imagine the pressure the Biting Protectorate was under. Every day, all the soldiers of the Biting Protectorate were prepared to throw themselves into battle at any moment. But when the news of the victory in the southwest arrived, the cavalry of the eastern and western Turkic Khaganates suddenly retreated like a receding tide. Even after chasing for nearly 1,000 li, they were nowhere to be seen. Impossible. How could someone simultaneously defeat Dalun Ruozhen and Jelifeng? This is something that not even Zhangqiu Jinxiong managed to accomplish in 10-some years. The doors of the massive hall were tightly shut, and Sishan held the news in his hands in silence for a long time. For a very long time, he did not dare to believe that this was true. This news was too unexpected and sudden. That brat actually defeated Jelifeng and Dalun Ruozhen. In the northeast of the Tang dynasty, in the territory of Yuzhou, in the territory of the Annan Protectorate, Zhang Shougui's eyes went wide when he saw the news. and he was so shocked that he couldn't speak. As a great general of the empire, a veteran general, and also the protector general of the Anong Protectorate, Zhang Shugui had made many contributions in his life. In the entire Tang dynasty, the only person who could suppress him was the war god of the Tang dynasty, the current junior guardian of the crown prince, Wang Zhongxi. But even in front of Wang Zhongxi, Zhang Shugui treated him as an equal, so there was no need to be so polite. The contributions he had made in his life were only a little bit less than Wang Zhongxi's. Yuzhou bordered so many powers, the Shi, the Khitans and the Eastern Turkic Khaganates, as well as the Goguryeo Empire, which had been concealing its strength and was actively preparing for war. Other than him, no one else in the Tang dynasty was capable of suppressing this place. Whether it was Geshu Han, Gao Xianji, or in Sis Han, they had no problem suppressing their own territory. But Anong was truly not something they could suppress. Zhang Shugui was absolutely certain of this. This was also why he considered himself the number 2 individual of the Tang dynasty. But the victory in the southwest had truly caught him off guard. The one who had saved the war of the southwest had not been Wang Yan or Xin Yuzhongtong, nor had it been Geshu Han and the Big Dipper army, which bordered the southwest and was most likely to send reinforcements, nor had it been the reinforcements of the imperial court. It had been an unremarkable 17-year-old grandson of the Wang clan. To tell the truth, Zhang Shugui still found this to be inconceivable and unreal. How could such a thing have happened in the territory of the Tang dynasty, while he was still alive? Was Uzun and Mengshi Zhao's army of more than 500,000 made of paper? And there was also Jelifeng and Daluan Ruozhen. Just how had these two lost to a child? Not even someone of Zhang Shugui's intelligence and experience could have guessed how Jelifeng and Daluan Ruozhen, the commanders of more than 500,000 soldiers, had lost to a child. Was it because the two of them were too useless? Or was that child too astonishing? Just what was it that he didn't know? Someone, find out all the information on the Southwest War for me. At this thought, Zhang Shugui suddenly stood up. A moment later, hundreds of elite Yuzhou cavalry rode out of the Anong Protectorate, howling toward the south. Uzun, the Goguryeo Empire, the Eastern and Western Turkic Khaganates, the Abbasid Caliphate, Karak-Spazinu. When the news of the victory in the southwest spread, the entire region surrounding the Tang dynasty quaked. All the foreign powers retreated like a tide to the border of the Tang dynasty. To the entire world, this was fated to be a day that would shake the heavens and shake the world. Regardless of whether it was the imperial court or the region surrounding the Tang dynasty, the southwest border was abnormally calm after the war. In the camp, people were discussing every day whether they should take advantage of the situation to counterattack and attack Mengshi Zhao or Uzun. As for Wang Chong, he had tossed all these questions to the side. The Southwest War was over, and his mission had been accomplished for the time being. To Wang Chong, after this battle, his authority as commander had come to an end. The true commanders of the Southwest were Xin Yuzhongtong and Wang Yan. To put it more accurately, there was only Xin Yuzhongtong. As a general, it was fine for him to accept orders in the face of danger, but not handing them over after the war was tantamount to overstepping one's authority. That was not a wise decision. After all, he still had no scholarly honors to his name. And in the end, the Southwest would still fall into the hands of Protector General Xin Yuzhongtong. Congratulations to User for completing the Empire's dirge, the trial of destiny, killing 420,000 soldiers of the Mengshi Yusang army and changing the fate of the Empire's southwest. At this moment, Wang Chong was seated cross-legged on the summit of the mountain, the stone of destiny's voice ringing out in his mind. Buzz! In a flash of light, countless illusions appeared in front of Wang Chong's eyes. Gallop! 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 The entire Southwest War. From the moment Wang Chong led his army out of the capital to the moment the Mengshi Yusang army was routed, and the Southwest War came to an end, flashed before Wang Chong's eyes like a fleeting flash of light. Congratulations to User for obtaining the new title Controller of Destiny. User's ability to survive has been greatly strengthened, as well as User's ability to resist the shackles of the world and rule over destiny. BZZ. The Stone of Destiny's voice stirred a fierce gale on the summit. Countless shadows that only Wang Chong could see surged past his eyes. Boom! At the same time, energy surged out of the depths of space-time, under the control of some invisible energy, and rumbled into Wang Chong's limbs and bones. This energy was both cold and scorching, and it also contained a destructive energy. Chapter 639. Wang Chong's root bone had already reached the dragon bone level, but it was only the most basic flood dragon bone. But now, Wang Chong's root bone had broken through from the most basic flood dragon bone level to the highest level. More importantly, Wang Chong sensed that besides the changes in his body and root bone, he had also undergone some other transformation. The ability to resist the shackles of the world and control fate. Just what is this? Wang Chong was flabbergasted. Although he had long ago known about the contents of this reward, even now, Wang Chong had no idea how this ability had been increased. Congratulations to user for reaching the Controller of Fate achievement. A new reward has been unlocked. Before Wang Chong could come back to his senses, a new change occurred in his mind. In a flash of golden light, two new rewards appeared in front of Wang Chong. One represented technique, while the other represented power. Success! The technique and technique even have a reward for luck. Wang Chong was overjoyed as he looked at the list of new rewards that had appeared in front of him. The War of the Southwest has concluded. User has killed 420,000 soldiers of the Mengshi, Yusang army, and has been rewarded with 2,100 points of destiny energy. The Annam Protectorate has lost 60,000 soldiers, and has been deducted 290 points of destiny energy. Congratulations to user for obtaining 1810 points of destiny energy. In addition, user has completed the Trial of Fate mission, and has been rewarded with 600 points of destiny energy. In total, user has obtained 2,410 points of destiny energy. BZD. The voice in his mind caused Wang Chong's entire body to tremble, his entire being dumbfounded. 2410. Wang Chong's mouth was wide open, a look of disbelief on his face. In the War of the Southwest, he had been completely focused on defeating Mengshi Zhao and Uzun. He had never even thought about the problem of the Stone of Destiny's reward. Wang Chong had also not expected that he would receive such an enormous reward at the end of the war. How could this be? Wang Chong was in a daze, unable to come to his senses for a long time. But now that he thought about it, for every 10,000 Mengshi, Yusang soldiers he killed in the War of the Southwest, he would receive 50 points of destiny energy. In this entire battle, he had killed a total of 420,000 Mengshi, Yusang soldiers. Perhaps not even the Stone of Destiny had thought of this, which was why it had created such a shocking reward. From his rebirth until now, this could be said to be the most shocking reward he had received. But when he thought about the significance of the Southwestern War to the Tang dynasty, its influence on the Central Plains, and the risks he had taken, Wang Chong felt relieved. Unbelievable, Wang Chong muttered to himself. At that moment, he suddenly understood the meaning of the trial mission. There were huge risks, but at the same time, there were huge rewards. 2,410 points of destiny energy were probably enough for him to do many things. Clack, clack. Just as Wang Chong was deep in thought, he suddenly heard the sound of footsteps. With a jolt, Wang Chong opened his eyes and saw a messenger pigeon perched on the eagle's shoulder. In its hand was a wrapped letter as it hurried over. "Young master, your letter, is it from that person?" As he spoke, Old Eagle's voice became very soft. Wang Chong's expression flickered as he took the letter from the eagle's hand. After glancing at it, he immediately put it away in his bosom. "Other than us, do not let anyone else know of this matter, not even the Protector General or my father," Wang Chong solemnly said. "Your subordinate understands." The eagle nodded and quickly left. Once the eagle had left, and there was no one around, Wang Chong finally unfolded the letter. The letter had been sent by Solitary Wolf, who had disappeared for a very long time. The entire letter only consisted of a few sentences. Solitary Wolf pays his respects. Your subordinate is doing well, and hopes that young master will not worry. The mission has been completed, and I await young master's summons at any time." At the bottom was a small line of words, and the unique symbol of solitary wolf. After reading the letter, Wang Cheng's fingers clenched, and with a slight shake, the letter in his palm was pulverized into powder. Standing up, Wang Cheng walked down the mountain with widened strides. "Li Sai, come with me," Wang Cheng called into the distance. "Yes, young master." The warhorse rumbled as Li Sai rode a Fergana horse, and arrived at lightning speed. In the War of the Southwest, the 1,000 cavalry under Li Sai's command had made great contributions. Moreover, as the future invincible great general, Li Sai was loyal and devoted to the Tang dynasty. Now Wang Cheng regarded him as one of his trusted subordinates. "The Eagle, tell father and uncle that I'm going out on patrol to calm the hearts of the people, and also to take care of a few personal matters. If anything happens, inform me with a messenger pigeon, and I will return at any time," Wang Cheng said. "Your subordinate understands," the Eagle replied from a distance, a sharp light flashing through his eyes. Without another word, Wang Cheng led Li Sai and a few elite cavalry away. The Southwest was currently under heavy guard, with every citizen a soldier. Every day, many messenger pigeons and eagles would be sent out to investigate the border between Mengshi-Zhao and Uzan, and many civilians would participate. If there was even the slightest disturbance on the Mengshi-Yusang border, the Annam Protectorate would immediately know and respond. Everything had already been arranged, and the Annam Protectorate had its own system. There was no need for Wang Cheng to worry about it. Setting out from the mountains and traveling southeast, Wang Cheng saw many abandoned cities and villages. These places that used to be bustling with life were now empty. Although the War of the Southwest had only lasted for 2 months, it had dealt an unprecedented blow to the nearly 1 million people living in this region. Panic spread everywhere, and many people took their wives and children with them and moved their families. Fortunately, the war was over, and placards had been posted everywhere. Many people were slowly returning from the mountains. It won't be long before this place will be completely restored. Wang Cheng rode the white-hoofed shadow to a stop on the street of the city and looked around. Hiya! 2 days later, Wang Cheng stopped outside a small and remote city. "All of you stop here. Li Sai, follow me." Leaving behind a few guards, Wang Cheng led Li Sai into this abandoned city. Black smoke curled up from the city, and the city walls showed signs of having been scorched by the flames of war. In many places, the walls had collapsed and were scorched black. In the War of the Southwest, although the armies of Uzan and Mengshi-Zhao had been held back by Wang Cheng and the Annam Protectorate, and had not been able to cause too much damage, this did not mean that the war had no effect on the people of the Southwest. Whether it was the scattered Mengshi-Yusang soldiers after the war, or the sporadic battles in the early stages, they had all had a significant impact on the cities and villages of the Southwest. A small group of Uzan cavalry should have been here. Li Sai followed behind Wang Cheng, his gaze sweeping over the surrounding ruins. Although Wang Cheng had said that he had come out to patrol, Li Sai felt that this was not the case at all. His goal was extremely clear, but truthfully speaking, Li Sai still had no idea what Wang Cheng was taking him to do. When the nest is overturned, no eggs remain intact. It's fortunate that we won this battle. Wang Cheng sighed. Only he knew what the outcome of this battle would have been like if he had not intervened. At that time, he would not have seen just 1 or 2 burned cities. "We're here." As he spoke, Wang Cheng suddenly stopped and walked into a dilapidated room. The room was dilapidated, the walls pitch black. All the tables, chairs, and tea tables had been kicked to pieces, and the shards of pots and pans were scattered everywhere. Against the wall, the only stove in the room had been completely smashed. "Wait outside. I'll call you when I need you," Wang Cheng said. "Yes, young master." Li Sai nodded. After the War of the Southwest, Li Sai's attitude toward Wang Cheng had changed from one of unwillingness to one of heartfelt admiration. Right now, no matter what Wang Cheng said, he would have no objections. Nodding, Wang Cheng walked into the room. It was completely empty with nothing at all. Wang Cheng scanned the room, and suddenly stamped 3 times on the ground. "Is it young master?" An almost inaudible voice came from underground. "It's me, Solitary Wolf, open the door," Wang Chong said in a low voice. Cackalack. A series of mechanical sounds came from underground. A few moments later, a piece of floorboard in front of Wang Chong moved aside, revealing a pitch-black cave. A flight of stairs seemed to extend into the cave. Wang Chong raised his robe and, without the slightest hesitation, began to descend the stairs. Clang! There was the sound of sparks in the darkness. Slowly, the light of a fire began to spread before Wang Chong's eyes, gradually growing brighter. "Young Master." Solitary Wolf's hoarse voice, disheveled hair, and haggard appearance gave Wang Chong a fright. Even at this distance, Wang Chong could smell the thick stench of blood. "Solitary Wolf, what's wrong?" Alarmed, Wang Chong hurried forward to support Solitary Wolf. "Cough cough, young master, be at ease. Those people want to kill me, but I'm quite lucky and won't die." Solitary Wolf raised his head and gave an ugly smile, his white teeth particularly conspicuous in the darkness. "Don't force yourself." Wang Chong glanced at him, and suddenly placed a finger on Solitary Wolf's Shanzhong acupuncture point. He then helped the weak Solitary Wolf sit on a chair, and stuffed a white pill sealed in wax into his mouth. "This is a healing pill. It'll help with your injuries." Solitary Wolf's body was riddled with sword and saber wounds, leaving Wang Chong horrified. "Cough, thank you, young master." After swallowing the healing pill that Wang Chong had obtained from the palace, Solitary Wolf's complexion was clearly much better. His coughing wasn't as bad as before, and there was a faint trace of blood under his skin. "How did you guys escape? Also, do you know the identities of those people who were chasing after you?" Wang Chong asked. Lone Wolf smiled bitterly, and recounted the process of his escape in detail. It turned out that Solitary Wolf had been hiding in Jiannan City for a long time, and it wasn't easy for him to find an opportunity to escape. However, those mysterious black-clothed men had been searching for them. There were a few times when Solitary Wolf almost died under their swords. Fortunately, Zhang Wentua woke up at that time, and the two of them managed to escape successfully. "Those black-clothed men, did you not catch a single one alive?" Wang Chong asked with a frown. "No, those people were death warriors. Once they were defeated and captured, they would immediately bite the poison in their teeth and commit suicide. I've tried to pry out their poison-filled teeth, but those people either started biting their tongues, swinging their swords, or severed their meridians and died. I've been dealing with them for a long time, but I couldn't get anything out of them." Solitary Wolf smiled bitterly. "Also, not long ago, young master won a great victory, and those black-clothed men retreated completely. Even if I wanted to catch them, I wouldn't have the chance." The Annam Protectorate's notice was plastered everywhere, and Solitary Wolf had clearly seen it. Chapter 640. Where is Governor Zhang? Bring him to me. I have something to ask him. Wang Chong said. Everything that had happened in the southwest could be traced back to the Battle of Dao Sword Pavilion, where Zhang Wentua had raped and murdered Jelifeng's wife and daughter. Right now, the entire Tang dynasty was under the impression that Zhang Wentua had died in the battle with Jelifeng in Sword Pavilion. Shielding and detaining an important official of the royal court was a heavy crime. And this was also the reason why Wang Chong was unwilling to let others know. Even his own father, Wang Chong, didn't want to let him know. Given his father's personality, there was a high chance that he would report this matter to the royal court. Given the crimes that Jelifeng had committed, if the royal court were to learn that he was still alive, he would surely be executed. Thus, no one could know that Zhang Wentua was still alive. Gongzi, thank you for saving my life, but there is no longer a Zhang Wentua, only a faceless man who has no face to see the world. Suddenly, a deep voice came from the cellar. In the light of the fire, a tall figure slowly approached. Even Wang Chong was given a fright upon seeing that person's face. Governor Zhang, what are you doing? Wang Chong stared at the figure before him. Where the face should have been, it had been replaced by a bizarre black mask. The black mask had no eyebrows or beard, as if it had been branded onto the flesh of the person's face. If not for the fact that Wang Chong had met Zhang Qiantua in the capital and recognized his voice, It would have been hard for him to believe that the black-masked man before him was the earnest and upright Jiannan governor, Zhang Qiantua. Gongzi Wang, this is my own choice, so please do not interfere. If I, Zhang Wentua, don't find out who killed my wife and daughter, don't find out the background of those black-clothed men, don't find out the true identity of those bastards who accused me of being disloyal, unfilial, heartless, and unjust, I will never remove this mask from my face. Zhang Wentua has no face to face the world, no face to face his wife and daughter in death. Gongzi, please don't call me Zhang Wentua anymore. Zhang Qiantua has already died in battle in Jiannan, and the only thing Gongzi sees now is a faceless man who has given up all hope. I only have one goal in life, and that is to kill those bastards and uncover the truth behind Jiannan. Before that, I will never fall, never. The faceless man fiercely clenched his fists, which made a series of cracking sounds. His whole body trembled, and his eyes were bloodshot. The kind of anger and hatred that seemed to never be extinguished was enough to frighten anyone. My lord! Suddenly, Wang Chong and Lone Wolf exclaimed at the same time. They saw two streams of tears flow down from faceless black iron mask. However, the tears were extremely red. They were actually blood. Binner Tonger, madam, wait for me. I will definitely avenge you. Definitely. The faceless man almost roared out the last sentence. At that moment, Wang Chong and Lone Wolf were deeply moved when they saw the faceless man weeping blood. A man does not shed tears easily, but only when he is deeply hurt. This was the first time Wang Chong had seen a man sobbing. No one could have imagined that the upright and courageous Jiannan commander-in-chief of the capital would turn into this blood-weeping faceless man. Even after many years had passed, this sight still left a deep impression on Wang Chong. Mister, rest assured, this matter isn't just Mister's matter. It's also a matter of the entire Tang dynasty. As long as Wang Chong still has a single breath left in him, I will definitely help Mister uncover the truth. Wang Chong said solemnly. Zhang Wentua was a loyal and upright official of the Tang dynasty. If not for Lone Wolf saving him in time, he would have already committed suicide by now. As a loyal official of the Tang dynasty, he had guarded the borders for the Tang dynasty for decades. Such a person should not end up alone, with his entire family wiped out, carrying infamy, and feeling ashamed to face the world. Even if he had never met him before, Wang Chong would never allow such a thing to happen to any member of the Tang dynasty, let alone a loyal and courageous official of the Tang dynasty. Young master, words cannot express my gratitude. If I can avenge my wife and wash away the infamy, I am willing to do anything for you, even if I have to work like an ox or a horse. The former prefect of Jiannan, Zhang Wentua, or rather faceless man, clenched his fists and said, Wang Chong was the son of a noble, born in a family of ministers and generals, and also the son of a virtuous minister of the Tang dynasty, Duke Jiao. Now that he had made great contributions in the southwest, if there was anyone in the world who could help him wash away the infamy of the world, it would be Wang Chong. There's no need for that. Wang Chong shook his head. If it was just about serving as an emissary, he already had plenty of subordinates under him. Not to mention, he had the growing Kunwa training camp and the deflecting blade manor at his disposal. In this war of the Southwest, the people of the deflecting blade manor would be able to play their role and assist him. Their future growth would surely be even more limitless. The reason why Wang Chong came here to look for Mister is also because of the matter regarding Jiannan. Mister, as long as you continue to investigate those people and uncover the truth about Jiannan, you will be doing Wang Chong a great favor. Wang Chong said. Faceless man's eyelids twitched, unable to understand what Wang Chong meant. Hehe, I won't hide it from Mister. I have something that I need to investigate as well, and I suspect that it has something to do with the people who are pursuing you. Wang Chong chuckled. Without beating around the bush, he took out the pitch-black and incomparably deep broken arrow from his bosom. This is. In an instant, Solitary Wolf and Faceless Man turned their gazes over. The broken arrow Wang Chong had taken out was forged with an extremely bizarre craftsmanship. It seemed to far surpass the current standard of arrow forging, and for some reason, the arrowhead was missing as well. However, The duo knew that Wang Chong had his reasons for doing so. Without hiding anything, Wang Chong told them about how he had been ambushed by a mysterious black arrow after the War of the Southwest, and how he had managed to dodge it with his keen intuition, only for the black arrow to accidentally kill Luoji. Gongzi, Solitary Wolf, was shocked. The eagle had never mentioned this matter to him, so this was the first time he was hearing about it. Even Faceless, who was next to him, was shocked. Gongzi means that this matter wasn't done by Mengshi Zhao or Uzun, but by the same group of people? Faceless Man asked doubtfully. I can't be certain. It's all just a guess. Wang Chong slowly said, his eyes bursting with a blazing light. But there's one thing I can be sure of. In that state, whether it was Jelifeng, Duan Gichuan, Daluan Ruozhen, or Huashu Wuzong, none of them would have been in the mood to do something like an ambush. And such a thing wouldn't have happened. More importantly, this matter was definitely not done by them. As Wang Chong spoke, he suddenly twisted the other side of the broken arrow, revealing something that Solitary Wolf and Faceless Man had not noticed. Chinese characters. No, it's the bird seal script of the Qin and Han. Seeing the symbols on the broken arrow, Solitary Wolf and Faceless Man were both alarmed. Near the feathers of the arrow, several characters were inscribed. These characters were definitely not Mengshi Zhao's or Uzun's. They were the characters of the Central Plains. Faceless Man could even tell at a glance that it was from the early Qin and Han dynasties, when only a small number of people used the cloud pattern bird seal script. This type of script was very ancient. Legend had it that it originated in the spring and autumn and warring states periods. By the time of the Qin and Han dynasties, because of the complexity and difficulty of writing, it was gradually abandoned and replaced by the more square early ancient seal script and small seal script. But no matter which seal script it was not the script used by the current Tang dynasty. It was at this moment that the two of them suddenly understood why Wang Chong said that the people who ambushed and assassinated him were not Mengshi Zhao's or Uzun's people. For a moment, there was dead silence in the cellar. Be it Lone Wolf or Faceless, neither of them spoke. The broken arrow was still the same broken arrow, dark and deep. But in the eyes of the two of them, they only felt that it was mysterious and had a fatal killing intent. It was completely different from before. But why? Faceless Man finally raised his head and looked at Wang Chong said. There were too many mysteries in this. Could the people who were pursuing him and those who were pursuing Wang Chong be the same people? If not, why were they targeting Wang Chong? He was just a 17-year-old boy. And why was it him? There had to be a reason for killing. Faceless Man was one thing. After all, he was once the Jiannan prefecture chief and had an illustrious status. But Wang Chong was originally just a hedonistic son of a wealthy family in the capital. Although he came from a family of ministers and generals, he did not have an official position or a noble title. In the capital, there were countless children of nobility like him. Moreover, if it was just targeting the Wang clan, why not Wang Fu, or even Wang Yan? These two were also children of the Wang clan, and their status was even higher than Wang Chong's. Isn't this too sudden? I'm not sure about this either. Wang Chong shook his head, his eyes gradually turning deep under the light. But one thing is certain. This matter is very likely related to the war in the Southwest. And I have a feeling that the people who pursued you and those who ambushed me are the same people. This is the only way to explain why the two of us were ambushed at the same time. I don't think the war in the Southwest is that simple. There seems to be another power hidden in the shadows, controlling everything from the shadows. Wang Chong said. Jelifeng truly did have ambitions for the Tang dynasty, but this ambition was not so great that he would immediately act against the Tang dynasty. Jelifeng had not been prepared. Otherwise, he would not have gone to seek help from Uzun, and he would not have volunteered to fight the Annam Protectorate on the Arai Plains in order to obtain Uzun's alliance. It was precisely because his wife and daughter had died in the Tang dynasty, raped and murdered by Zhang Wentua, that Jelifeng's wrath had been ignited, leading to the war in the Southwest. And according to Lone Wolf, when he had entered Zhang Wentua's residence, he had indeed discovered the corpses of Jelifeng's wife and daughter. From this, it could be seen that although Jelifeng was ambitious, in the Jiang'a incident, He had been open and aboveboard. He had not used any underhanded methods. But if that's the case, just who could it be? What good would this do them? And who could have so much power? Chapter 641. He had investigated and found that the people pursuing him included the Tang people, Mengshi Zhao, Uzan, and even the Arabs. This was clearly not something any ordinary person or faction could accomplish. The war in the southwest involved the Tang dynasty, Uzan and Mengshi Zhao, great generals like Huashu Wuzong, Daluan Ruozan, Duan Gichuan and Jelifeng. It involved 700,000 to 800,000 soldiers and millions of civilians. If all of this had been orchestrated by someone, if there really was a faction so powerful that it could toy with so many empires, so many famous generals, so many soldiers, and so many civilians in the palm of its hand, Solitary Wolf couldn't help but shiver at the thought. Deep in his heart, Solitary Wolf was more inclined to believe that all of this was a coincidence, that the people pursuing him and the people pursuing young master belonged to two different factions. I don't know. Wang Chong shook his head. As I said, all of this is just my conjecture. Perhaps it's true, perhaps it's not. But no matter what, there's one thing we can be sure of. Besides the Tang dynasty, Mengshi Zhao and Uzan, there are other factions hidden in the undercurrents that we can't see. These people even dared to frame and kill a governor of the imperial court. And they even dared to assassinate me. They've already reached a certain level of boldness. The laws of the imperial court and the rules of the secular world can no longer bind them, nor are they of any use against them. So many people were present in the War of the Southwest, including all the generals of the Annam Protectorate, my father Wang Yan, and Protector General Xin Yuzhongtong. Even with so many people present, they still couldn't make them have any misgivings. From this, one can easily imagine just how bold they are. Wang Chong said with a solemn expression. Wang Chong was a person who had lived two lives, so he knew almost everything like the back of his hand. However, despite searching through his memories, Wang Chong was unable to find anything related to these people. At the very least, he didn't know anything about what happened to the Jiannan prefect, Zhang Qiantua. Somehow, Wang Chong had a feeling that he had come into contact with something that he had never come into contact with in his previous life. Young master, if you have any misgivings, leave this matter to me. I am a person who has died once, and no one knows of my existence. No matter who they are or how powerful they are, I have nothing to fear. In this life, I only live for one thing, and that is to uncover their true colors, to avenge Bin'er Tong and Madam, and also to wash away my grievances. As long as I can achieve this goal, I don't care if I have to go through a mountain of blades or a sea of flames, or have my tongue pulled out or my nose cut off. I have nothing left to lose. The faceless man looked resentful, and when he said the last sentence he laughed bitterly. So what if he was powerful? So what if his background was mysterious? So what if his methods were brilliant and vicious? He was already a lonely man with nothing to lose, so what was there to be afraid of? Wang Chong and Lone Wolf looked at each other in silence. Wang Chong could feel the deep pain, hatred, unwillingness, and resentment in the depths of the faceless man's heart. It had to be said that all of this was completely out of Wang Chong's expectations. The former Jiannan prefect had become a faceless man, who only lived for revenge, and wore a black iron mask. No one would believe it if they were to say it out loud. But when he thought about what Zhang Qiantua had gone through, it wasn't that surprising. Perhaps, handing this matter over to him is the best arrangement. Wang Chong looked at the blood-red eyes of the faceless man and thought. Whether it was him or Lone Wolf, they were still living under the sun. On the surface, there were still taboos and inconveniences. Although Lone Wolf was a little better than him, as long as he did anything, once it was exposed, he and the Wang clan would be implicated. On the contrary, the faceless man's traces of his existence had been completely erased. And in this cellar, no one had greater determination and boldness than him to investigate this matter. These thoughts flashed through his mind, and Wang Chong quickly made a decision. Mister, I'll leave this black arrow to you. If you want to track down clues, start with this black arrow. As Wang Chong spoke, he suddenly handed over the broken black arrow in his hand. I can't promise you too much, but I can promise you one thing. You won't be alone in tracking down the sword pavilion. From now on, as long as you need anything, I can provide it to you. Martial arts manuals, medicinal pills, manpower, the army connections in the court and the army. I will do my best to provide you with everything you need. In this matter, the Wang clan and I will be your greatest backer and pillar of support. So no matter what you want to do it without worry. Tian, Wang Chong sternly said. Young master. Hearing this, the faceless man trembled all over, and his eyes revealed a look of excitement. The faceless man had personally experienced just how powerful and unbridled these people were. They didn't even care about the stately governor of the court. The fact that Wang Chong was willing to involve himself in this matter was already the greatest support he could receive. And in truth, given Wang Chong's background, the Wang clan's influence in the court, and Wang Chong's enormous contributions in the southwest, if he had Wang Chong and the Wang clan's support, this would be the greatest support he could receive in the Tang dynasty. This was definitely much better than him fighting alone, and his hopes would be much greater. Many thanks, young master. The faceless man's eyes were bloodshot. He suddenly bent his knees and fell heavily to his knees in front of Wang Chong. Young master's promise is worth 1,000 caddies, and this faceless man has no way to repay it. As long as I can fulfill my heart's desire from now on, if young master needs me, even if I have to go through water or fire, even if I have to sacrifice myself, this faceless man will not hesitate. A gentleman's promise was worth 1,000 caddies. This was the faceless man's vow, and it was also Wang Chong's vow. From now on, in the invisible shadows around Wang Chong, there was an additional faceless man whose origins no one knew besides Wang Chong and Lone Wolf, and who never spoke easily. Rumble. With a rumbling sound, the wooden plank on the ground opened, and Wang Chong walked out with Lone Wolf and the faceless man. Young master, who is this? Outside, Li Sai frowned slightly when he saw the faceless man covered in a black iron mask, a hint of surprise in his eyes. Faceless man, Wang Chong said indifferently. Let's go. Don't worry about it so much. Let's go back. Hiya. With a shout, Wang Chong returned to the base with Li Sai, Lone Wolf, and a group of cavalry. Only the faceless man disappeared along the way. No one knew where he went, and no one cared about him. If even Wang Chong didn't ask, the others naturally wouldn't say much. The troops led by the King of Song arrived half a month later. More than 70,000 men and horses brought with them a large amount of provisions and ordnance. It was a majestic sight to behold. Haha, where's Wang Chong? Where's Wang Chong? Quick, let this king take a look. In the distance, amidst the billowing dust, before anyone could even appear, they could hear the King of Song's hearty laughter. Even though more than half a month had passed since the war, the King of Song was still in a state of extreme excitement and joy. Your Highness, the King of Song, there are so many people in the southwest, as well as me and brother Gengji. Are we not worthy of your Highness's attention? On the mountain, Xingyu Zhongtong and Wang Yin rode up on 2 tall divine steeds to welcome them. Ha ha ha, you 2 boorish men add up to 80 or 90 years old. How can you compare to the great hero of the Southwest, the great general of the future? Where's Wang Chong? The King of Song roared with laughter. Even in front of Wang Yin and Xingyu Zhongtong, he did not give them any face. Wang Chong pays respect to the King of Song. The moment he finished speaking, Wang Chong rode up on the white-hoofed shadow to welcome him. This was not the first time they had met the King of Song. The Song and Wang clans had always been friends for generations. When acquaintances met, they would naturally feel cordial. However, the King of Song's enthusiasm was truly unexpected. Ha ha ha. You don't know how many people in the imperial court became red-eyed with jealousy when they found out that this king was coming first. Ha ha. Let this king see the great hero of the Southwest. As the King of Song spoke, he spread open his arms and gave Wang Chong a big, passionate hug. From the day the King of Song received the news of the victory in the southwest, he had been anxiously awaiting it. He had marched day and night with his 70,000 soldiers precisely, so that he could be one step ahead and see Wang Chong, who had rendered enormous service in the southwest. Gengji, you've given birth to a fine son. Letting go, the king of Song turned to Wang Yan, his face wreathed in smiles. Your Highness is too kind. My son is still young, so your Highness's praise might not be a good thing for him. Moreover, the War of the Southwest was won by tens of thousands of soldiers, not by him alone. Wang Yan sternly said, "Ha ha ha, stubborn as a dead duck. If he had not built that lion city on the edge of the Arai, if he had not rushed to the southwest to command the army, Gengji, with just you and Xinyu Zhongtong's abilities, would you have been able to win this war? I know that you are doing this for his own good, fearing that he will be too arrogant and impatient. I hope that he can calm his heart and not be arrogant in victory or discouraged in defeat. But now that the Holy Emperor has spoken, what else do you have to worry about? Just based on the enormous service your Wang clan has rendered in the southwest, no one in or out of the imperial court, including the Yao clan and King Qi, will be able to touch your Wang clan." The king of Song roared with laughter. Today, the king of Song was particularly happy. He was not one to so easily reveal his emotions, but Wang Chong's feats in the southwest had been too earth-shattering. It was precisely because of Wang Chong's great victory that the besieged Tang dynasty was suddenly able to intimidate all the foreign powers and resolve an enormous crisis. One could easily imagine the fondness the king of Song had for Wang Chong. Wang Yin stood to the side, an awkward expression on his face. The Wang clan had produced such a Qilin son, so how could he not cherish him? He was just afraid that he would be too arrogant. But these thoughts could not be concealed in front of the king of Song. Ha ha ha, brother Gengji, forget it. You're simply not a good liar. Moreover, your son's talent is clear for all to see. Even His Majesty is anxious to see him, so let's not cause any trouble. Chapter 642. A joyous occasion refreshed one's spirits, and the group welcomed King Song into the tent on the summit. Wang Chong, after you enter the capital, you must be careful. Inside the tent, the king of Song, Wang Yan, Xinyu Zhongtong, Wang Chong, Wang Fu, and Sun Lue sat cross-legged across from each other. The king of Song's smile faded, and his expression gradually turned solemn. You've rendered an enormous service this time. King Qi's side is about to explode from anger. Although he can't easily make a move against you, he definitely won't give up so easily. I've heard some news in the capital that he'll probably join forces with the Chamberlain of Dependencies to make a fuss about etiquette. You've rendered an enormous service this time, so the Holy Emperor will definitely reward you. However, if there's a problem with the etiquette when you're presenting your reward, the imperial censors will use it against you and use it against you. Those imperial censors, from the prime minister to the imperial concubines in the palace, will even dare to impeach you. Although there are many people in the court who like you, there are also many who want to see you make a fool of yourself and make a fuss about you. You're still young. If you leave others with the impression that you're too young and frivolous, it will greatly affect your future career. It's even possible that your reward will be revoked. You absolutely must not be careless. The king of Song spoke earnestly. The situation in the court was treacherous and treacherous. It was different from the flashes of swords and blades on the battlefield. If one was not careful, they could be consigned to eternal damnation. No matter how great a service one rendered, it would be useless. Back then, the king of Song, a member of the imperial family, and an imperial prince of the Tang dynasty, had been thrown into prison, let alone others. Wang Chong was still young. Moreover, he represented the greatest hope of the king of Song and the younger generation of the two clans. As an elder, the king of Song didn't want to see Wang Chong being plotted against over such a small matter. This was also the reason why he had come looking for him before Wang Chong returned to the capital. I've already had Grand Scholar Lu find an old servant from the Chamberlain of Dependencies. He's learned and knows a lot. After you return to the capital, you can look for him to study, so as to avoid any problems. Thank you, the king of Song. Wang Chong bowed respectfully. Having lived two lives, Wang Chong actually knew much more than the king of Song. He also did not think that the Chamberlain of Dependencies could really plot against him. However, the king of Song's sincere concern for him still moved him greatly. Ha ha ha, there's nothing else. Oh, that's right, Wang Chong. This time, the emperor has instructed me to stabilize the situation in the southwest. On Uzun and Meng Shizhao's side, Duan Gichuan is still there, and Huoshu Wuzong is unscathed. If these two join forces and try to do something, I'm afraid that the southwest will once again fall into chaos. As he spoke, the king of Song revealed a worried expression, and his expression became much heavier. Duan Gichuan and Huoshu Wuzong were both famed generals of the present age. In terms of martial prowess, the king of Song did not fear them, but the art of war and battle formations were not his forte. This was also why he had specifically asked Wang Chong for help. Haha, your highness, be at ease. They won't be able to join forces, and they won't be able to achieve anything. Even if they have the intention, I definitely won't give them this opportunity. Wang Chong looked at the king of Song and smiled. Oh, the king of Song's eyes brightened as he immediately turned to Wang Chong. In the tent, everyone else also turned to Wang Chong. There were many things waiting to be done on the southwest border, and Uzun and Meng Shizhao would always be a threat. If Wang Chong could resolve this problem, he would be able to resolve everyone's worries. This would be yet another merit. Chonga, are you serious? Wang Yan also spoke with a serious expression. Haha, it naturally wouldn't have been possible in the past, but now that we have the king of Song's 70,000 soldiers, everything is completely different. Wang Chong smiled and nodded, a confident look on his face. The greatest threat to Uzun and Meng Shizhao is not their soldiers, but their alliance. In the past, I really might not have been able to do anything. But now, Jelifeng is heavily injured and unconscious. Meng Shizhao has no one to oversee the situation, and the court is in chaos. This is the best time for us to exert pressure on them. The king of Song's 70,000 soldiers, and the Annam Protectorate's 40,000, are a total of 110,000 soldiers. The Mengshi, Yusang army, was still unable to do anything to us when it had 500,000 soldiers. And now that their strength has been greatly reduced, less than a quarter of their original strength, they are even less of a match for us. As long as we place these 110,000 soldiers on the shores of the Arai, where the Tang dynasty and Meng Shizhao meet, what choice does your highness think that Meng Shizhao will make in the face of internal and external troubles? Ceding land and paying reparations, and submitting to the Tang dynasty will be their only choice. Wang Chong confidently said. Ceding land and paying reparations? In the tent, everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian in astonishment. Wang Chong's proposal was far beyond their expectations, and they had never even heard of ceding land and paying reparations. Wang Chong chuckled, not at all surprised by their reactions. Although the Tang dynasty was an era where martial prowess reigned supreme, and had a certain degree of military strategy, in certain aspects, it was still at an extremely primitive level. A war would take a long time and result in many casualties, a great deal of provisions, equipment, and war horses being consumed. But in the end, the victor would only obtain a victory in reputation, while the loser would only be forced to retreat. After a period of time, the loser would accumulate enough strength to stage a comeback, and then another war would ensue. This sort of pattern repeated over and over again. To Wang Chong, this was extremely inconsistent with the nature of war, and it was not in the interests of the victor. War was for the sake of politics, but it was also for the sake of the empire. If a war consumed a great deal of resources, but could not obtain a great deal of benefit from the enemy, then the war was a failure. Since Jelifeng dared to rope in Uzun and challenge the Tang dynasty, then as the loser, he had to be prepared to pay the price for his failure. Ceding land and paying reparations was the best outcome for him. On one hand, it would let Meng Shizhao remember this lesson forever. On the other hand, the Tang dynasty would also be able to make up for the huge losses it had incurred, and even obtain benefits that far exceeded what it had paid. But what if Daluan Ruozhen leads the Uzun cavalry and appears at this time? We're no match for them on the plains. Not far away, Sun Luyue, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up. Uncle Sun, you're worrying too much. Even if Huoshu Wuzong and Daluan Ruozhen lead more than 10,000 cavalry and charge down from the plateau, I'm confident that I can stop them. Moreover, The current Uzun cavalry is no longer the cavalry of the past. If Dalawan Ruozan attacks now, he'll be courting death. Wang Chong smiled slowly. The plague was spreading on the Uzun plateau, and there were no cows or sheep that could be eaten. Moreover, the people of Uzun had been eating Mengshi Zhao rice for a few days, and were all unaccustomed to the climate. They were suffering from severe diarrhea. In a situation where their bodies were weak and their combat ability was greatly reduced, if Dalawan Ruozan still dared to attack the Tang dynasty, then he would truly be an idiot. In fact, Wang Chong could not wait for him to attack the Tang dynasty at this time. Ha ha ha! Hearing Wang Chong's words, everyone in the tent burst into laughter. In this decisive battle, Dalawan Ruozan and Huashu Wuzong had been wiped out by Wang Chong's Li Sai, forcing them to use Mengshi Zhao's rations. As a result, the majority of the soldiers suffered from indigestion, vomiting, diarrhea, and diarrhea. This was a fact that everyone knew. In this campaign, in terms of strategy, Dalawan Ruozan had completely lost to Wang Chong. Haha, Dalawan Ruozan probably doesn't have the guts to appear before young Master Chong. Xinyu Zhongtong smiled as he stroked his beard. Everyone in the tent also smiled. As a famed general of the Southwest, Dalawan Ruozan had used all his methods, but he had still lost to Wang Chong. This had also thoroughly cemented Wang Chong's reputation. It was not at all excessive to say that Wang Chong was now the #1 general of the Southwest. In addition, the reason why the Uzun army dared to invade the east and enter the interior of the Tang dynasty was because they relied on Mengshi Zhao's army. Without Mengshi Zhao acting as a spy for them, they would never have dared to invade the east. Thus, as long as we can pressure Mengshi Zhao and force them to submit, we can break the alliance between Mengshi Zhao and Yusang. As long as the alliance is broken, no matter how bold Dalawan Ruozan is, he won't dare to recklessly invade the southwest. As he spoke, Wang Chong's eyes shone with a penetrating light. The eyes of everyone in the tent grew brighter and brighter. Even Wang Chong's father, Wang Yan, couldn't help but nod his head. Ha ha ha, good. Wang Yan, you truly did have a good son. Let's do it this way. Speed is of the essence in war. Today, I will arrange for 70,000 soldiers to be stationed at the Arai. Let's see if Mengshi Zhao will submit or not. The king of Song roared with laughter, slapping the table in praise. When he had first arrived, he had been worried about how to pacify the southwest, but after hearing Wang Chong's words, the king of Song felt his entire body relax. This originally arduous mission had become incomparably easy under Wang Chong's explanation. Rumble! With a single order from the king of Song, the 70,000 soldiers and the 40,000 Annam Protectorate soldiers began to march toward the Arai in the south like a massive war machine. Mengshi Zhao's reaction was even faster than expected. Jelifeng was unconscious, and when the 110,000 Tang dynasty soldiers appeared on the shores of the Arai, Mengshi Zhao swiftly submitted. The War of the Southwest had consumed several decades of Mengshi Zhao's savings, and Mengshi Zhao no longer had the strength to fight. Not even Duan Gichuan could reverse this situation. As for ceding territory and paying reparations, that was another matter altogether. By this time, Wang Chong had already begun his journey back to the capital. Wang Chong, the capital is up ahead. On the official road, Bai Siling rode a white horse and stood next to Wang Chong with Zhao Yadong on his left and right. Next to them were Su Hanshan, Fang Xianying, and the other students of the Kunghua training camp. After more than half a month, they had finally arrived at the capital from the southwest. Ha ha ha, look. The entire capital knows that we're coming back. Lanterns and streamers are hanging everywhere. Not too far away, Sun Jiming, dressed in his military uniform, suddenly raised a finger and pointed at the distant city gates excitedly. Everyone followed Sun Jiming's finger and saw that the gates of the capital were decorated with red lanterns, a rare sight even during the day. Through the gate, red light could be seen seeping out of the city. One could easily imagine how many lanterns there were in the city for them to emit such intense red light. Haha, young master made such a great contribution in the south. Now that he's returning in triumph, half the capital has probably learned of his return. It's only right that he's been decorated with lanterns and streamers to celebrate. Chapter 643. Young Master Wang Chong has returned. As he spoke, a shrill and resounding voice came from the distance. A sharp-eyed figure on the city gate saw Wang Chong's group and immediately called out. Boom! The quiet capital was instantly thrown into an uproar by this shrill voice. Young Master Chong has returned. Hurry and set off the firecrackers. Everyone, hurry and go to the city gate. The young hero of the south has returned. Big brother Chong is mine. Don't fight with me for him. The entire capital was in an uproar, accompanied by the crackling of firecrackers. Not only that, as if they had received a signal, countless people surged out of the city gate like carps crossing the river. Their faces were flushed, and they were in high spirits. Wang Chong! Wang Chong! Wang Chong! Wang Chong's shouts echoed through the heavens, mixed in with the shrill cries of quite a few girls. Let alone by Xiling and Zhao Yadong, even Wang Chong was dumbstruck. I didn't think that you would have so many girls to like. Behind him, a cold and jealous voice could be heard. Huang Qin'er carried a large sword on her back, as she coldly stared at Wang Chong. Haha, I also didn't know that I was so popular. Wang Chong chuckled. These words were met with a cold snort from the three girls at his side. Although they had always maintained a relationship that was neither too close nor too distant with Wang Chong. And even they themselves didn't know what this was. Sometimes like friends and sometimes more than friends. There was one thing that was clear. After the War of the Southwest, the three of them had all treated Wang Chong as their exclusive property. Of the three, any one of them could get close to Wang Chong, but the other girls could not. Wang Chong gave an awkward smile and quickly fell silent. Young master over here. Suddenly, a familiar voice caught Wang Chong's attention. Wang Chong's heart skipped a beat. He turned his head and saw two figures galloping towards him on horseback. Brother Gua, Brother Chai, why are you here? Wang Chong's eyes lit up in surprise. He immediately spurred his horse forward to meet him. They were none other than Gua Feng and Chai Ziyi, whom he had met in the Kunwa training camp. Both the Gua and Chai families were the founding families of the Tang dynasty and held great power. Gua Feng and Chai Ziyi were the direct descendants of their families. It was impossible for ordinary people to meet them, let alone meet them. Wang Chong did not expect that they would be waiting for him at the city gate. Ha ha ha, I heard that young Master Chong was returning to the capital, so Brother Chai and I have been waiting here for a long time. Gua Feng clasped his hands together and smiled. Young Master Chong has made great contributions in the southwest. There are countless people in the capital who wish to meet young Master Chong. We also wanted to be the first, so we specifically waited at the city gate. Chai Ziyi also faintly smiled. Dear brothers, you're too polite. Wang Chong clasped his hands in return, believing that the two were just being polite. But Wang Chong quickly realized that this was not the case. Young Master Wang. Look, young Master Wang is here. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the city gate. By the time Wang Chong turned his head, he saw a large crowd surging out. The Zhang clan, the Lu clan, the Huang clan, and the Chung clan had all come out. But before Wang Chong could react, another wave of shouts could be heard. Young Master Chong has returned. Young Master Chong has returned. Behind the Chung, Huang, Lu and Zhang clans, countless members of the capital's great clans also came out. Most of these people were unfamiliar to Wang Chong. But when he saw the emblems of their clans on their clothes, Wang Chong immediately recognized them. These were the great clans that had provided guards to him in exchange for Wuxia steel weapons before the Southwest War. The victory in the Southwest had apparently involved these great clans, all of them rushing over to welcome him. Young Master Chong, our patriarch invites you. He hopes that young Master Chong can pay a visit to our residence. Young Master Chong, this is a small token of our clan's appreciation. We hope that young Master will accept it. We know that young Master must be tired and in need of rest. This is an invitation from our patriarch. When young Master is free, please come to our residence for a chat. Our patriarch will be sure to welcome you. Young Master Chong, we are from the capital's Wei clan. Does young Master require any guards? We have brought 10 some people with us this time. If young Master likes them, please accept them. Young Master has made great contributions to the Tang dynasty. So this is a token of our patriarch's appreciation. And us. And us. The patriarchs, young masters and stewards of countless great clans began to gather around, some offering gold and silver, some offering powerful guards. Some great clans even brought their adult daughters, hoping to marry them to Wang Chong and form a good relationship with the Wang clan. Even though Wang Chong had experienced the war in the northwest and defeated opponents like Daluan Ruozan and Huashu Wazong, he had developed an incomparably powerful heart. But when he saw those beautiful and alluring young ladies of the great clans raise the curtains and disembark from their carriages, he couldn't help but blush. Behind Wang Chong, Bai Siling, Huang Qian'er, and Zhao Yadong all had frosty expressions, their eyes spitting fire as they viciously glared at the clan patriarchs who had brought their young ladies. Rumble! Just when the crowd was at its most boisterous, the earth suddenly rumbled and the sky shook. Two groups of fully armored cavalrymen suddenly rushed out of the city gate. Behind the cavalrymen were many guards. Finally, they escorted a few majestic and luxurious bronze carriages out of the city. Although nothing could be seen, there was an enormous aura accompanied by a mountain-like pressure that was like a tidal wave bursting out from the carriage, boundless and boundless. Everyone who sensed this aura felt their hearts tremble. Like mice encountering a cat, they all subconsciously retreated. The Bureau of Military Personnel. Seeing the leading carriage, especially the emblem on the carriage, and that fluttering banner, even the clan patriarchs paled at the mere mention of it, and began to retreat to the sides. In the entire capital, there was only one person in the entire Tang dynasty who dared to wear such a carriage emblem and such a banner. That person's identity and status was not something that the patriarchs, elders, and direct descendants of the aristocratic families could afford to offend. Boom! With a massive boom, the two groups of powerful Tang dynasty cavalry spread apart, flanking Wang Chong and his companions. Who goes there? Next to Wang Chong, Bai Siling and Zhao Yadong paled at this sight, and immediately urged their horses forward. Wait a moment. Wang Chong spread out his hands to stop them. The new emblem on this carriage had only appeared in the capital recently, so not many people knew about it. But Wang Chong had seen it in the southwest. Bang! As he was thinking, the carriage door opened and a pair of dazzling boots, suffused with the aura of authority, stepped out. Dressed in the crimson robe of a first-rank official, and wearing a jade python belt. The moment Zhangqiu Jinxiong's majestic figure appeared, everyone present couldn't help but lower their heads. The fierce tiger of the empire. Even if one cast aside the important status of Minister of War, this person before them still possessed the status of an influential imperial great general. In the War of the Southwest, Zhangqiu Jinxiong's Annam Protectorate had lost more than 100,000 soldiers, and the Southwest was in grave danger. Everyone in the capital knew that the moment the Southwest was lost would be the moment this new Minister of War would step down from his high horse. This was because if he had not left the Southwest on his own accord for the sake of fame, and given Mengshi Yusang an opportunity, the Southwest would never have ended up like this. Moreover, the new Protector General of the Southwest, Xin Yu Zhongtong, had been recommended by him. But no one had expected that Wang Chong's intervention in the southwest would not only prevent the Tang from losing a single inch of territory, but even turn defeat into victory, beheading more than 400,000 Mengshi Yusang soldiers and achieving a major victory in the southwest. Xin Yu Zhongtong and the 180,000 soldiers of the Annam Protectorate were not only free of blame, they had even rendered meritorious service. Zhangqiu Jinxiong had also been praised by the Holy Emperor for his ability to manage the army and his ability to judge people. His position as Minister of War was now as stable as a boulder. No one had expected this. From the sight of Zhangqiu Jinxiong walking down from the carriage, his face glowing, one could tell that he was in the height of his success. Young Master Chong, Zhangqiu Jinxiong walked down from the carriage and scanned the crowd. Before Wang Chong could walk over, he stepped forward and gave Wang Chong an extremely solemn and respectful bow. Zhangqiu has been waiting for a long time. Please accept my bow. Hoa! Seeing Zhangqiu Jinxiong bow to Wang Chong, the crowd fell into an uproar. No one had expected that Zhangqiu Jinxiong, the Minister of War, would bow to Wang Chong in front of so many people. Even Bai Siling and Zhao Yadong paled. They hurriedly dismounted and retreated to the sides of the road. Zhangqiu Jinxiong was the Minister of War, a fierce tiger of the empire, one of the few great generals of the Tang dynasty, and a first-rank official of the imperial court. No matter how he was related to the rebellion of the southwest, his status was unquestionable. In terms of rank, Zhangqiu Jinxiong was not one bit inferior to Mengxi, Yusang great generals like Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wuzong, or Duan Gichuan. Moreover, he was now the Minister of War, a true titan of the Tang dynasty. He was not someone that any of the great clans present could provoke. Bai Siling and Zhao Yadong came from extremely ancient clans, but they still did not dare to act impudently in front of Zhangqiu Jinxiong. On this occasion, Zhangqiu Jinxiong had clearly come for Wang Chong. This bow of his was not something that anyone else could accept. Lord Minister is too polite. Wang Chong cannot accept this. Wang Chong was also startled. He had not expected Zhangqiu Jinxiong to bow to him in front of so many people. He hurriedly reached out to support Zhangqiu Jinxiong's arm. In the War of the Southwest, young master has rendered great service to the Tang dynasty, benefiting the people, and is the great benefactor of my Annam Protectorate. It is not excessive to accept Zhangqiu Jinxiong's bow. Chapter 644. In the War of the Southwest, if not for Wang Chong, the Annam Protectorate would have been completely wiped out. The entire Annam Protectorate would have disappeared, and Zhangqiu Jinxiong's foundation in the court would have been completely obliterated. Not only that, when the Southwest was occupied by Mengxi, Yusang, he had been the main person in charge of the Southwest. Even though he had already entered the court and become the Minister of War, no longer managing the Annam Protectorate, this enormous responsibility still meant that he would be removed from office and demoted. It was even possible that he would be implicated and sent to prison. The occupation of the entire Southwest was not something some minor official could handle. It was not an exaggeration to say that Wang Chong had given him and the Annam Protectorate a new lease of life. Young master, Zhangqiu has already prepared a banquet in the residence. Could young master accompany us, so that Zhangqiu can welcome young master? Zhangqiu Jinxiong spoke extremely humbly and courteously. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that a dignified Minister of War, a first-rank official of the court, would be so humble and respectful to a teenager. But now that they understood Wang Chong's monstrous achievements in the Southwest, they didn't think it was too much. Okay, then I'll have to trouble my lord to lead the way. Wang Chong smiled, and without the slightest hesitation, he readily agreed. Zhangqiu Jinxiong was the Minister of War, and he had personally come out of the city gates to welcome him. His sincerity and etiquette had both reached the pinnacle. No matter what, he should not be refused. Siling, Hong Ying, Huang Qian'er, and everyone else, you can return first. I will go with Lord Zhangqiu to the minister's residence. Yes, young master. Bai Siling, Zhao Yadong, Huang Qian'er, and the others all nodded. If young master wishes to go, then go. Then we'll invite you another time. Even Guofeng and Chai Ziyi moved to the side. The Minister of War of the Tang dynasty was in charge of the mobilization of all the armies in the world. Although he was not the only one who had the final say in the Tang dynasty, he was undoubtedly an individual with real authority. If the patriarchs of the Guo family and Chai family were to appear, they might be able to say a few words, but Guofeng and Chai Ziyi were not qualified. Chong Gongzi, please. Standing by the side of the carriage, Zhangqiu Jinxiong respectfully opened the carriage door and invited Wang Chong up. Everyone, including Guofeng and Chai Ziyi, had looks of envy on their faces. The ferocious tiger of the Tang dynasty, the Minister of War, waited by the carriage and opened the door for him personally. In the entire capital, among the young generation, perhaps only Wang Chong could receive such treatment. This was a treatment that even many aristocratic families, including nobles, generals, and ministers, could not receive. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The carriage drove all the way through the city gates, heading in the direction of the Minister of War's residence. Wherever the carriage passed, the people in the capital who had already received the news burst into thunderous cheers. Wang Chong! 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 Not since the beginning of the year had the capital been so lively. Countless people excitedly gathered on the two sides of the street, cheering so loudly that their faces were flushed red. The sound of fireworks and firecrackers reached a crescendo at this moment. In the history of the Tang dynasty, ever since the war god of the Tang dynasty, Wang Zhongxi, defeated Uzun and Longxi and conquered the plateau, no one had ever received such a spontaneous and enthusiastic welcome from the people of the capital. This was completely a welcome for a hero. Chong Gongzi, after this battle, the Wang clan will enjoy endless glory and wealth. Zhangqiu Jinxiong lightly pushed open the window, and seeing the sea of people outside welcoming him, he quickly retracted his gaze. I hear that the Bureau of Rights is already discussing your reward, and the Imperial Court is also discussing your reward. Once they reach a conclusion, His Majesty will immediately summon you to the palace and formally reward you. In the War of the Southwest, young master has rendered a heaven-shaking service. From now on, you are certain to soar, your future limitless. As Zhangqiu Jinxiong spoke, his expression and voice were extremely respectful, devoid of any jealousy. At present, Wang Chong didn't even have half an official position, not even a minor one, much less anyone else. But all the nobles and nobles of the capital knew that his future was limitless, based on the contributions he had made in defeating Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Huaitsong, and Duan Gichuan by spending all his wealth, and recruiting his subordinates to defeat Daluan Ruozhen in the southwest. There was even a rumor in the capital that he was the 8th great general of the Tang dynasty. In terms of pure strength, even Zhangqiu Jinxiong had to admit that Wang Chong's grasp of the art of war had reached a level where he could stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's top-class great generals, perhaps even surpassing them. To have such accomplishments at 17, not even Zhangqiu Jinxiong dared to guess what heights he would reach in the future. This was also the deeper reason why Zhangqiu Jinxiong had personally come out to welcome Wang Chong. But at this moment, Wang Chong had no idea what Zhangqiu Jinxiong was thinking. "My lord is too polite." Wang Chong returned the bow, neither arrogant in victory nor dejected in defeat. The carriage rumbled into the residence of Zhangqiu Jinxiong's minister. The welcoming banquet that Zhangqiu Jinxiong had prepared for Wang Chong was extremely grand. There were grapes from the western regions, guavas, dates, bananas from Cochin, pineapples, coconuts, sea cucumbers, sea urchins, shark fins from the Goguryeo Empire, giant whales captured from overseas, and all sorts of exotic fruits and delicacies. In between the wine, there were also beautiful dancers from the western regions, Arabia, and Carrick's Spazinu, adding to the alluring atmosphere. This welcoming banquet lasted from day to night, with Zhangqiu Jinxiong constantly offering toasts, intending to get Wang Chong drunk and stay the night at the Minister of War's residence. Young Master Chong, words cannot express my gratitude for the Southwest. In the future, if you have any use for me in the capital, just say the word. Even if I have to go through fire and water, I will not hesitate. At the height of his intoxication, Zhangqiu Jinxiong suddenly raised his bronze cup and sat upright, his expression solemn. This was the first time since he had entered the capital that Zhangqiu Jinxiong had revealed such a solemn expression. "Haha, many thanks, my lord. Cheers." Wang Chong stared in a daze at Zhangqiu Jinxiong, and then he suddenly understood. He raised his cup and clinked it against Zhangqiu Jinxiong's cup. "Congratulations to user for obtaining great general's appreciation. You have been awarded 50 points of destiny energy. User's potential has been increased by 1. A voice suddenly resounded in his mind. A hint of surprise flashed through Wang Chong's eyes at the Stone of Destiny's voice. This was the first time he had heard of a reward called Great General's Appreciation. The number of great generals in the world could be counted on one's fingers, and it was not easy to obtain their appreciation. During the regional commander's incident, Zhangqiu Jinxiong had submitted a memorial in support of him, but at the time, Wang Chong had not received any great general's appreciation. But now, after drinking together at the Minister of War's residence, he had received the Stone of Destiny's notification of great general's appreciation. Interesting. Hearing the voice in his mind, a smile crept onto Wang Chong's lips. Given the amount of destiny energy he currently had, 50 points of destiny energy wasn't much at all. Instead, it was the Stone of Destiny's appreciation that piqued Wang Chong's interest. I wonder what is the use of this appreciation? It had been more than a year since Wang Chong had received the Stone of Destiny, but he had never seen such a unique reward before. He had no idea what this appreciation could be used for. However, even though he couldn't sense an obvious increase in his strength, Wang Chong could still deduce that this was a reward that indirectly raised his fighting prowess. By the time Wang Chong left Zhangqiu Jinxiong's residence, it was already late. Li Sai was waiting outside the minister's residence. "Gongzi, how is it?" Upon seeing Wang Chong walk out, Li Sai hurriedly walked up to him with a concerned expression. At the same time, he draped a fox cloak over Wang Chong's shoulders. "There's no need for that." Wang Chong chuckled as he pushed aside the fox cloak that Li Sai had draped over his shoulders. When he first stepped out of the residence, he was still drunk and his steps were unsteady, but with a blink of his eyes, his entire being seemed to have undergone a complete transformation. All the alcohol in his body was transformed into white steam that was forced out of the top of his head. The current Wang Chong didn't seem the least bit drunk at all. With the rise in his martial arts, Wang Chong was able to use more and more techniques. Forcing out the alcohol in his body was a mere trifling matter. "You should return to the residence first. There's no need to wait for me. In a while, I'll return on my own," Wang Chong said. "But Gongzi, there are no buts. Sai, you saw what I did in the War of the Southwest. Do you think that anyone can harm me now?" Wang Chong faintly smiled as he glanced at Li Sai. Li Sai hesitated for a moment. Although he was still a little worried, he could sense that volcanic energy in Wang Chong's body that could erupt at any moment, and he was instantly rendered speechless. "Yes, Gongzi." Li Sai turned around, his mountainous figure quickly vanishing into the darkness. "Let's go to the western part of the city." Wang Chong boarded a nearby bronze carriage that his clan had sent and parked on the side of the street. Quietly seated in the carriage, he took out a white chess piece from his sleeve. This seemed like an extremely ordinary chess piece, but Wang Chong had sensed the pulsing energy within it from the very start. In the entire capital, there was only one person who could cause this white chess piece in his hand to undergo this sort of transformation. "Senior," Wang Chong raised his head, a complicated look in his eyes. "Stop here. You don't need to worry about the rest of the journey." A few moments later, they arrived at a place not far from the Ghost Tree district. Wang Chong stopped the carriage, gave a few instructions to the driver, and then disembarked. "It's been a long time since I've been here," Wang Chong exhaled. As he gazed at the city walls, the buildings, the trees, and the thick darkness, he felt a sense of nostalgia. Now that he thought about it, it had probably been more than half a year since he had last been here. To Wang Chong, this place represented a person of special significance even in the Tang dynasty. Whoosh! With a flick of his sleeve, Wang Chong strode toward the plaza in the Ghost Tree district. The plaza that used to be bustling with activity was now completely silent. There was not a single person to be seen, and the surroundings were frighteningly quiet. With great familiarity, Wang Chong walked in the direction of his memories. Turning a corner, Wang Chong saw the massive silhouette of a tree in the distance. In the darkness, it seemed like a primordial beast, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, a terrifying sight. Beneath the silhouette of the tree was a faint orange light. In the light, an old man and a young man were seated, their bodies slightly bent. In front of them was a chessboard. There were no pieces on the chessboard, but there were 2 full jars on either side. Chapter 645. Senior. Upon seeing that familiar figure, Wang Chong walked over and respectfully bowed in front of the old man, his expression extremely respectful and serious. If the people of the capital knew that Wang Chong, who had just won a major victory in the southwest, and was viewed as a triumphant hero by the entire Tang dynasty, would be so respectful to this old man. They would definitely find it inconceivable. But Wang Chong knew that no matter who it was, the old man before him was worthy of such a grand gesture. This was because he was So Yung-sun, the war god of the Tang dynasty, a legendary existence whose name had already spread throughout the world in Taizong's era. Even famed generals like Wang Zhongxi and Zhang Shogui paled in comparison to him. "I'm here." So Yung-sun's voice was very soft, like that of an ordinary old man. It was impossible to imagine that he was that famous war god. "Sit." So Yung-sun didn't even raise his head, only pointed at the chessboard across from him. "Ha ha ha, senior brother." A cute little head poked out from under So Yung-sun's ribs, its two eyes twinkling in the light. It was none other than the Xiao Jianjian, who often accompanied So Yung-sun. "Little fellow." Wang Chong chuckled, extending a hand to lovingly stroke the boy's short hair. "Senior brother, let me tell you, Master has been waiting for you for a very long time." Xiao Jianjian intentionally lowered his voice. "You talk too much." So Yung-sun didn't even raise his head, but he rapped a finger on Xiao Jianjian's head. "It's no fun. Master's angry." Xiao Jianjian cutely stuck out his tongue and quickly retracted his head. Wang Chong glanced at So Yung-sun, a pensive look in his eyes, and then he quickly sat down across from So Yung-sun. "Accompany me for the next round." So Yung-sun finally raised his head and pointed at the chess jar opposite him. The orange-red light shone on his face, changing constantly. "Yes, senior." Chuckling, Wang Chong picked up the chess jar and held it in his hand. However, when Wang Chong saw the chess pieces inside, he was slightly stunned. In the past, when Wang Chong and So Yung-sun played chess, So Yung-sun played the white pieces, Wang Chong played the black pieces, and the white pieces went first. But this time, So Yung-sun gave him only white chess pieces. "In the past, you were only a little clever, so I let you take the black pieces. But now, you are worthy of these white pieces." So Yung-sun's voice came from the air. In an instant, Wang Chong seemed to understand something. The night was slightly cold, but Wang Chong felt warm in his chest, and he was slightly touched. So Yung-sun didn't say anything, but there was no doubt that he had expressed his approval of him in this way. This was something that he had never felt before. "Let's play chess." Before Wang Chong could say anything, So Yung-sun had already picked up the chess piece in his hand. "Yes." Wang Chong smiled calmly and placed a white chess piece first. The game went on from midnight until dawn. In the end, even the lantern next to So Yung-sun was about to be extinguished. "Okay, I lost." At the last moment, So Yung-sun gave up and admitted defeat. Undoubtedly he lost. But even so, So Yung-sun wasn't the slightest bit upset. Instead, he seemed unusually happy, as if he was the one who won. Scholars don't love wealth, while military officials don't mind death. This is the way for a country to prosper and never decline. "Chong'er, you did well in the War of the Southwest. You didn't lose face for the Tang dynasty." So Yung-sun stood up and looked at Wang Chong with a gratified expression. "Yes, senior." Wang Chong lowered his head, his heart filled with gratitude. So Yung-sun's few words were the greatest affirmation he could give. So Yung-sun never lightly participated in the politics of the court, much less the border. In the entire empire, very few people could receive this kind of affirmation from him. For the sake of these few words of affirmation, countless people were willing to fight until their heads bled, and they paid an enormous price. "Do you still have the white piece I gave you last time?" So Yung-sun suddenly asked. "Yes." Wang Chong hurriedly took the white piece from his bosom. "Give it to me." So Yung-sun took the white piece from Wang Chong's hand, lightly flicked it, and then returned it to Wang Chong. "The blood energy in your body is too fierce. I can't do anything about this problem of your bloodline. I can only temporarily suppress it for you and protect your dantian. Everything else will depend on your own luck." As Wang Chong was examining the white piece in his hand, he suddenly heard a voice at his ear. Before Wang Chong could react, bang! Wang Chong's right shoulder went numb as a palm lightly patted him. A moment later, the palm was withdrawn, but in the blink of an eye, A majestic and unbelievably powerful sword qi surged into Wang Chong's body like a flood. It was different from the sword qi that Wang Chong had felt before. Although this sword qi was extremely powerful and sharp, it contained a strong vitality. As soon as this sword qi rushed into Wang Chong's body, it immediately divided into thousands of pieces and dispersed into Wang Chong's meridians and dantian. Jianer, it's daybreak. Let's go. A voice sounded at his ear. Wang Chong raised his head and saw a figure with fluttering sleeves and a 7 or 8-year-old child walking into the distance. Senior, when can we meet again? Wang Chong's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but ask. When the time comes, there will be a chance to meet again. So Yongsun's voice floated in the wind. The old man and the child quickly disappeared into the night. Wang Chong looked at the two figures in the distance. An inexplicable feeling welled up in his heart. He knew that after this trip, the two would once again enter that deep mansion and be isolated from the outside world. He didn't know how long he would have to wait to see them again. After calming his mind, Wang Chong quickly returned to his residence. After paying his respects to his mother, Wang Chong quickly went to bed. He had barely closed his eyes during the War of the Southwest. Now that he was back in the capital, he could finally rest. While Wang Chong was resting at home, the imperial palace was in turmoil. The Holy Emperor's decree had already been issued. The Bureau of Rights, the 6 bureaus, and the officials of the imperial court were discussing the issue of rewards for the generals of the Southwest. Whether it was Xin Yu Zhongtong, Wang Yan Wang Fu, or any of the other generals of the Southwest, there were no problems with their rewards. Only Wang Chong's reward was a problem. This is not proper. The youngest son of the Wang clan, Wang Chong, doesn't even have half an official position. How can he be rewarded? That's right. Although he was born in a clan of ministers and generals, he's only the son of a commoner. Not even the Annam Protectorate has a record of him. So how can he be rewarded? In the imperial court, several officials from the Bureau of Rights, the Chamberlain of Dependencies, and the imperial censors all spoke up to stop this. A country has its laws, and a clan has its rules. Even if we want to reward Wang Chong, we have to follow the rules of the imperial court. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. Are we going to throw the rules of the imperial court into disarray because of one person? Imperial censor Duan had a stern expression as he stood next to the coiling dragon pillar, ready to take on the world by himself. It wasn't that he had a grudge against Wang Chong, but the imperial court's decision to greatly reward Wang Chong would throw the imperial court's rules into disarray. As an imperial censor, he should not fear the nobility and swear to protect the laws of the imperial court to the death. Whether it was the sovereign or the common people, as long as they violated the laws of the imperial court, they had to swear to the death to impeach them and fight to the end. Moreover, ever since the founding of the Tang dynasty, there had never been a precedent of a commoner being rewarded so generously. Nearby, King Qi was inwardly overjoyed as he coldly watched. In the War of the Southwest, he had been too conspicuous and was no longer suitable to jump out. Thus, he had contacted the people of the Chamberlain of Dependencies and the Bureau of Rights, then found these inflexible and conservative imperial censors, all for the sake of suppressing that most conspicuous Qilin son of the Wang clan. In King Qi's eyes, the entire Wang clan, whether it was Wang Zhen, Wang Yan, Wang Fu, or anyone else, had limited potential. If they were really that formidable, they would have long since been made king or marquis. Only this Wang Chong made him feel an enormous threat. A 17-year-old who was already able to defeat Daluan Ruozhen and Huashu Wuzong had already made King Qi smell the scent of Duke Jiao. When Duke Jiao was still on the throne, his King Qi residence had been almost completely suppressed. No matter what, King Qi could not allow such a formidable opponent to appear in the imperial court. And Wang Chong had no official position, nor was he part of the army. This was his greatest weakness. According to the rules of the imperial court, if Wang Chong was not part of the army, there was no way to record his achievements. No matter how great Wang Chong's achievements in the Southwest were, they would have nothing to do with him. Then according to imperial censor Duan's meaning, Given that Wang Chong has made such a great contribution, should we also charge him with privately raising an army, forging weapons, and interfering with the command of battle? A strange voice came from the side. Before anyone else could speak, another imperial censor across from Imperial Censor Duan spoke, his voice brimming with sarcasm. Imperial Censor Yang. Duan Qian instantly paled at the sight of this imperial censor. This sarcastic imperial censor had graying temples. It was his former superior Yang Wei. It would have been fine if someone else had rebuked him, but it just had to be Yang Wei, a fellow imperial censor, and his immediate superior. Duan Qian's face immediately turned red, but he quickly regained his composure. Why not? Duan Qian stiffened his neck. The imperial court had its laws. If one violated the laws, so what if one was his superior? So what you mean is that we should imprison Wang Chong and imprison him. Then you will lead the army to the battlefield and lead the Tang dynasty to defeat Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wuzong, Duan Gichuan, and those ambitious foreign lords in the surroundings, and then protect the common people of the Tang dynasty? All of a sudden, a voice came from behind him. Before Duan Qian could react, a skinny hand suddenly reached out and pinched his ear fiercely. Then it started twisting violently. Chapter 646. Third Uncle, Third Great Uncle. Seeing the person behind him, Duan Qian's eyes widened, and his entire face paled. Imperial Censor Duan. Duan Zhongcheng. Seeing the old imperial censor with grizzled temples walk in, the people on both sides turned solemn and bowed. This old man with grizzled temples and a thin but extremely spirited figure was none other than the old imperial censor Duan Chao. However, Duan Qian had a completely different feeling. The old imperial censor Duan Chao was not only a renowned figure of virtue and prestige in the Tang dynasty, but also the head of the Duan clan. Moreover, he was an upright and outspoken man who did not fear the powerful. This had been the case since the previous dynasty. From the previous emperor to the dukes and nobles, even the low-level officials, they had all been impeached by him. Even the grandfather of the main character this time, Wang Chong, the esteemed Duke Jiao of the Tang dynasty, had been impeached by him. The status of the imperial censors of the Tang dynasty was inextricably linked to Duan Chao. It was also because of him that the Duan clan of the capital was known as a clan of imperial censors. Duan Qian had chosen to enter politics and become an imperial censor precisely because of his admiration for his third great uncle. From a certain perspective, Duan Chao was also his teacher. All the laws and regulations of the imperial court were taught by Duan Chao. Duan Chao had a token bestowed by the previous emperor on him. He could enter and leave the imperial court as he pleased, and had the right to do as he pleased. This was something that only the old deputy imperial censor could do. Little brat, I knew that you would be used by others. You've only learned a little of the way of the imperial censor, and you're already showing off. I said long ago that you have little talent and little learning, and are of no use. This time, young Master Wang Chong made great contributions in the southwest, and His Majesty wants to reward him. I knew that you would be used by others, and just as I expected. Duan Chao's rage was unquenchable. His fingers squeezed so hard that Duan Qian's ears were almost like fried dough twists, causing Duan Qian to grimace in pain. But what Duan Qian could not endure the most was that he was being watched by so many people. He had lost all face, and was so embarrassed that even his neck turned red. However, Duan Qian couldn't fight back. The elders were respected, and the etiquette of the Tang dynasty was there. No matter how dissatisfied he was, Duan Qian couldn't fight back. Otherwise, a person who disrespected his elders would not be able to stay in the imperial court. Old censor, let go, let go. If you continue twisting, imperial censor Duan's ears will fall off. Let him do whatever he wants. We can't teach him a lesson, but the old censor can. That the imperial court was in chaos. There were those who wanted the old censor to let go, and there were also those who watched coldly from the sidelines. The imperial court had its own laws. Duan Chao refused to let Wang Chong go. Although they couldn't do anything to Duan Qian, Duan Chao was different. Duan Chao was already old and highly respected, No one could say anything about him disciplining his descendants. Duan Chao, what are you doing? This is the imperial court. Do you really think this is the Duan clan's ancestral hall? Why are you making a fuss here? Where is your sense of propriety? To the side, King Qi's face was ashen. Seeing Duan Xian being completely dominated, he could no longer hold back. That's right. Hearing King Qi's words, Duan Xian seemed to recall something. He struggled out of Duan Chao's grasp, his face red. Third great uncle, the imperial court has its own laws. As imperial censors, it is our duty to uphold those laws. The law is merciless. If the Son of Heaven breaks the law, he will be punished the same way as the commoners. From the emperor to the ministers, if anyone violates the laws of the imperial court, we should point them out and correct them. Isn't this what you have always taught us? As he said these words, Duan Qian stared straight at his third great uncle, his gaze firm and unyielding. The imperial censors had their own principles. Even his third great uncle would not back down. Pa! Before Duan Qian could finish his words, the old censor had already slapped Duan Qian across the face. Old censor! Old censor! That the crowd gasped in shock, and even the officials who supported the sage emperor's decision to reward Wang Chong were shocked. Wang Chong's big uncle Wang Zhen, who had been standing to the side, was also visibly moved. No one had expected the old censor to take such a drastic action. Third great uncle. Duan Qian's face reddened as he clutched his cheek. His eyes were filled with incredulity. Duan Chao, you old fogey. Do you think that you can act as you please in the royal court, just because you are old, and have the iron voucher bestowed by the previous emperor? Men, hurry up and drag him out. King Qi flew into a rage. It hadn't been easy for him to convince Duan Qian to speak up for him. No matter what, he couldn't allow Duan Chao to ruin his plans. Your Highness King Qi, is it wrong for me to teach my own heir a lesson since the Duan clan's heir is disobedient? As an elder, I have the responsibility to guide him. Not even the Holy Emperor would say anything about this. Does your Highness King Qi have any objections? Even when facing King Qi, a member of the royal family, Duan Chao showed no fear. He was someone who had even impeached the previous emperor of the Tang dynasty. So why would he care about a mere King Qi? King Qi was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Do you know why I hit you? Duan Chao ignored King Qi and turned to look at Duan Qian, who was still in shock. Back then, I said that you only know 30% of the way of censors and know nothing at all. Back then, you didn't believe me and didn't listen to my advice, insisting on entering the royal court. Now let me ask you, why do I impeach all the officials in the royal court, including His Majesty? Because we have to protect the laws of the royal court. Duan Qian covered his face, but he still answered quickly. I can only give you 3 points for this answer. Nobles, and ministers held great power. Their every move was watched by countless people in the world. Any random decision could cause countless people in the world to have no food to eat and no place to stay. Because of this, we have to keep a close eye on them at all times. If they go out of line, we have to impeach them. Even if His Majesty, the Son of Heaven, goes out of line, we have to remonstrate and help His Majesty become a wise Son of Heaven. Upholding the laws of the royal court is only secondary. The true duty of censors is to uphold justice and do things that benefit the country. If you don't understand this, you will never know the way of censors. That youngest son of the Wang clan doesn't have a single title. According to the rules of the royal court, he can't be promoted. When I was still at home, I heard that the royal court was discussing this matter. I knew that this matter would become the weakness of that youngest son of the Wang clan in court. And you have a pedantic personality, so you will definitely be used. The way of censors is to uphold justice. Impeaching that youngest son of the Wang clan has nothing to do with the country. On the contrary, recommending that child is beneficial to the royal court, to the country, and to the Tang dynasty. Why should he be restricted by the laws? At the end of the Sui dynasty, heroes rose up. Why was the ancestor of the Tang dynasty able to stand out from the masses and establish the achievements he has today? What holy emperor His Majesty was able to conquer the south and expel the foreign invaders? Wasn't it because he appointed people based on merit and talent? The words of the old deputy imperial censor were so deafening that everyone in the hall was stunned. Even Duan Qian, who had previously been unconvinced, had his mouth wide open, unable to speak. The duty of censors was to uphold the laws of the royal court. This was a concept deeply ingrained in his mind. But Duan Chao's words had completely overturned Duan Qian's belief in the principles of censors. At this moment, the old censor's eyes were cold, and he no longer paid any attention to his shocked air. I don't care what all of you think of that child. I, Duan Chao, say that the royal court will reward those who have rendered great service. That child has rendered such great service that no one can think of scheming against him. I recommend that child of the Wang clan with all my might. Even if no one supports that child, even if all of you oppose him, I will definitely support him. The old censor's last words were powerful and resounding, his hair standing on end. Ordinary court struggles and factional struggles were one thing. But that child had spent all of his family's wealth and made such a great contribution. If they still used the fact that he had no scholarly honors and no official position to control him, wouldn't that disappoint the people of the world, the common people of the Southwest? He had been an old censor for so many years that he could not allow sand to be mixed in his eyes. If anyone dared to deceive him on this matter, he would make life difficult for that person. Everyone here is an important official of the court. At a time like this, I believe that no one will be selfish enough to make life difficult for that child. King Qi, what say you? As the old censor spoke, he turned his gaze to King Qi. Even though King Qi was usually arrogant, in the face of the old censor's overbearing and unyielding gaze, he couldn't help but feel a little diffident. He subconsciously turned his head away, not daring to meet the old censor's gaze. Lord Zhao, Lord Sun, Lord Li, the old imperial censor's gaze swept over the officials one by one, but none of them dared to meet Duan Chao's gaze. Those who had originally opposed Wang Chang's reward began to mumble, averting their gazes as they involuntarily said, "Yes, yes, yes. Your Majesty, please make your divine judgment." The old censor watched as the officials from the Bureau of Rights and the 6 bureaus dodged. Finally he turned around, his expression solemn. Gazing into the depths of the hall, at that figure behind the curtains, he respectfully bowed. "Your Majesty, please make your divine judgment." At this moment, all the officials in the hall lowered their heads. Even King Qi and Yao Guangyi had no choice but to follow suit. All was quiet behind the curtains. After a few moments, a resounding and dignified voice like the blazing sun came out. "We have already decided. In 3 days, summon Wang Chong to court." The voice rumbled like thunder. Following the Holy Emperor's order, an imperial edict passed through the palace walls and arrived at the Wang clan residence. "You have rendered an enormous service in the Southwest. The officials of the court, whether it is King Qi, Yao Guangyi or Abusi, none of them can make an appearance. Out of fear of arousing suspicion, I and the other officials of the court cannot say anything. Thus, the opinions of those censors are the key. If not for the old censor Duan Chao's appearance in this court debate, who knows how many more problems would have arisen." Chapter 647. In his father's generation, the Wang clan had once been renowned throughout the world. They were known as the Duke Jiao of the Tang dynasty, and even the virtuous prime minister. But Wang Zhen and Wang Yan's generation had declined day by day, completely unable to compare to the glory of his father's generation. This was a source of pain in Wang Zhen's heart. But now the Wang clan had finally produced a Wang Chong. In the War of the Southwest, not even Wang Zhen dared to look at the dazzling light that had burst forth from Wang Chong's body, much less believe it. After so long, there was finally hope for the Wang clan's resurgence. Imperial censor Duan Wang Chong had not expected so many things to happen in the imperial court while he had been asleep. Wang Chong had some impression of that old imperial censor Duan Chao. He was the clan head of the capital's Duan clan. The Duan clan was known as a clan of imperial censors and had an extremely high reputation. But in Wang Chong's memory, Duan Chao had retired very early in his last life and paid no attention to worldly affairs. He had not expected that in this life, he would charge into the imperial court and argue with King Qi and the other officials for his sake. When the time is right, your nephew will personally pay him a visit to thank him, Wang Chong said. There's no need. To his surprise, Wang Jin shook his head, immediately rejecting Wang Chong's proposal. After taking a sip of tea, he calmly placed the tray back on the table and said, "The old imperial censor is a true loyal subject. It is precisely because of this that the Duan clan is known as a clan of imperial censors, and was bestowed with an iron certificate and a golden edict by the previous emperor. Moreover, the old imperial censor's way of doing things is based on facts, and not on people. The reason why he's helping you isn't because he's particularly fond of you, but because it's beneficial to the country. Thus, he could rebuke and educate his descendant in front of all the officials, and strongly recommend and support you. If you go and thank him now, the old imperial censor will probably retract his decision and go before the holy emperor to impeach you. And even if you want to see him now, you won't be able to. The old imperial censor has already closed his doors to guests. Unless he wants to come out, no one will be able to." Wang Jin smiled as he stroked his beard. Wang Chong was startled, and his heart was filled with deep respect. The old imperial censor was a true honest official. Any kind of thanks would seem unnecessary. The friendship of a lowly person is as sweet as wine, and the friendship of a gentleman is as plain as water. Since the old censor is unwilling to see a guest, I will write a letter to express my gratitude," Wang Chong said. "And that works too." Wang Jin pondered for a moment, but this time, he did not reject it. The old censor argued on the grounds of reason in court. Wang Chong thanked him by writing a letter. This could be considered as an exchange of books and gifts, forming a friendship that forgets the difference in age. Oh, that's right. 3 days later, His Majesty will summon you to the palace to reward you. When it comes to the etiquette of the audience, you must not be negligent. Otherwise, even if you accept the reward, you will be criticized by the officials afterwards and be accused of disrespect. In the future, it will be extremely detrimental to your career," Wang Jin sternly said. Wang Chong's reward this time was no small matter. This was a reward personally bestowed by the Holy Emperor, and it was completely different from ordinary rewards. This represented the favor of the imperial clan, and was an enormous honor. "I've already arranged for someone for you. When the time comes, he will tell you all the necessary etiquette. You can't get careless." "Haha, there's no need. The King of Song has already made arrangements for me," Wang Chong faintly smiled. In this aspect, the King of Song truly did have foresight. Although he was not in the capital, he had already made arrangements, so there was no need for Wang Chong to worry about it. "Oh, that's even better." A hint of surprise flashed through Wang Jin's eyes, and then he smiled and nodded. When it came to the etiquette of the audience, he had not discussed it with the King of Song beforehand. Since the King of Song had made arrangements, nothing could be better. Wang Jin quickly left the Wang clan residence. Soon after, Wang Chong sent someone to fetch the old official from the Chamberlain of Dependencies that the King of Song had spoken of. In the next few days, Wang Chong remained in the residence and focused on learning the etiquette of the audience and rewards. Although Wang Chong had been back for several days, the celebratory mood in the capital had not lessened in the slightest. On the contrary, it was growing more and more fervent. On the streets, in the restaurants and tea houses, everyone was talking about this young hero of the Tang dynasty. And the disputes in the court, as well as the grudges between the Wang clan, the Yao clan and King Qi, were also being discussed. Bits and pieces of Wang Chong's past, including how he had once abducted a commoner girl, were all dug up. His past profligacy was also treated as Wang Chong's deliberate concealment of his abilities. And Wang Chong's battles in the southwest against Daluan Ruozhen, Huashu Wuzong, and Meng Shizhao's generals were also vividly described, becoming the talk of the storytellers on the streets. In the mouths of these storytellers, Wang Chong had become a legend who could single-handedly fend off 1,000, who could turn stone into gold, who possessed the means of an immortal. But in the end, all these legends converged on one point: Wang Chong's rewards. Even the foreign envoys and who merchants in the capital had gathered, wanting to know what the Holy Emperor had bestowed upon Wang Chong. In my opinion, that young Master Wang should at least be made a general for his great service. Hey, what's a general? In my opinion, he should be made a noble. Only a noble title can be passed down. But it's been a long time since the imperial court has conferred a noble title, and a general title is hard to come by. The Bureau of Rights has even rejected the conferment of a viscount, let alone anything else. Haha, it's precisely because it's so few that it should be conferred. Young Master Wang's great service isn't something an ordinary person can accomplish. If he isn't conferred a noble title, how can he show His Majesty's favor? Right, if His Majesty were to confer a noble title, what kind of title do you think it would be? In my opinion, it should be a viscount at the very least. How could a viscount be enough? At the very least, it should be a count, equivalent to those ministers in the court. In the restaurants and tea houses, on the streets and in the alleys, everyone was talking. When the Tang dynasty had first been founded, it had lavishly conferred titles, but as time went on, the conferment of noble titles became more and more restricted. By the time the current dynasty was established, it was already extremely cautious. Even many of the first-rank officials in the court were only conferred the title of count. Thus, in the capital, count had become an invisible dividing line. It was relatively easy to bestow rewards to those below count, but it was extremely difficult to bestow rewards above count. Compared to the founding of the dynasty several hundred years ago, the difficulty was incalculable. Everyone speculated that Wang Chong would at least be conferred the title of count, but anything higher would not be so easy. The Bureau of Rights would probably be the first to object. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. With the arrival of Wang Chong's audience with the Holy Emperor, the festive atmosphere of the capital reached its peak. Boom! When the gate opened and Wang Chong walked out of the Wang family residence, dressed in a crimson ceremonial robe and a ceremonial hat, he was immediately greeted by a wave of cheers. Wang Chong! Wang Chong! Wang Chong! Countless people of the capital had gathered outside the gate of the Wang family residence. Men and women, young and old, merchants and servants. All of them were shouting, their faces red and their voices rising in waves. Even the servants and maids of the Wang family residence were excited by the clamor outside. But unlike the servants and maids of the Wang family residence, Bai Xiling, Zhao Yadong, and Huang Qianer were all focused on Wang Chong. Wang Chong had returned victorious from the southwest, and was now being conferred the title of the Holy Emperor. As his friends, Bai Xiling, Zhao Yadong, and Huang Qianer had come to the Wang family residence early in the morning to see him off. Although this was not their first day meeting, when they saw Wang Chong's sword-like brows, starry eyes, upright posture, and his red ceremonial robe, they couldn't help but have their eyes brighten, a strange light flickering in their beautiful eyes. The red-robed Wang Chong and the Wang Chong on the battlefield gave off a completely different feeling. If the Wang Chong on the battlefield was an invincible war god, then the Wang Chong before them had restrained his heroic spirit and hidden his edge, instantly exuding a completely different and refined aura of a scholar. The different feeling only made him more and more attractive. Don't randomly look at girls on the side of the road. Be careful that you don't gouge out your eyes. Bai Xiling glared fiercely at Wang Chong and rudely said, "Bang!" On the side, Zhao Yadong said nothing. With a cold face, she turned the red-tasseled spear in her hand, so that the tip was pointing down and the handle was pointing up. With a thump, the hard ground in front of the Wang family residence's gate cracked and splintered in a show of force. Behind him, Huang Qianer said nothing, her face expressionless. However, the silver sword on her back seemed to hum threateningly in its sheath. "With all of you here, I wouldn't dare to act recklessly." Wang Chong laughed. "Okay, Chonger, it's about time to leave. The meeting with His Majesty can't be delayed." Madame Wang watched from the back, inwardly laughing. She had also been a young girl, so how could she not understand the thoughts of these three girls? Rumble! An ornate carriage inlaid with golden threads stopped on the side of the street. This was a carriage sent by the Bureau of Rights to receive Wang Chong. Wang Chong boarded the carriage, and set off for the imperial palace. After around 15 minutes, Wang Chong finally entered the imperial palace. This was not Wang Chong's first time in the imperial palace, but the feeling this time was particularly different. The golden palace walls were grand and magnificent, and beneath them were countless imperial soldiers and palace guards in shining armor, exuding a solemn and dignified aura. But unlike usual, they were wearing festive red ribbons on their left and right shoulders. Moreover, there were many officials from the Bureau of Rites among the imperial soldiers and palace guards. This audience was no small matter. Everyone knew that the Holy Emperor would assuredly reward Wang Chong handsomely. This could be seen from the solemnity of the ceremony this time. The ornate carriage inlaid with golden threads stopped in front of the inner 9 gates. As Wang Chong stepped off the carriage, he was greeted by a massive golden palace gate. 2 officials from the Bureau of Rites, dressed in crimson ceremonial robes, stood on either side of the gate, their heads slightly lowered. Although they seemed absent-minded, Wang Chong could clearly sense that their gazes were constantly on him. The King of Song was right. Wang Chong smiled, but he didn't expose them. During the process of the Holy Emperor's bestowal and audience, every step and every moment was watched by many eyes. The slightest bit of disrespect would be noted down by the onlookers, and it would become the reason for one's impeachment in the future. Many of the scholars who were receiving the audience for the first time didn't know about this, and the Bureau of Rites had a handle on them, causing their efforts to go to waste. Chapter 648. The Holy Emperor has decreed that Wang Chong has an audience. Suddenly, a shrill voice like that of a duck's throat came from within the palace gates. Rumble! The gates opened, and banners fluttered in the wind. Rows of imperial guards, dressed in red tasseled armor and armed with weapons, lined up from the gates to the depths of the imperial palace. With a glance, Wang Chong actually could not see the end of the line. Crack! A whip cracked, and a white-haired eunuch dressed in embroidered robes, standing far away on the white jade steps, let out a shrill voice. Summon Wang Chong for an audience. His voice echoed from the gates to the depths of the imperial palace, lingering for a long time. Wang Chong straightened his crimson ceremonial robe and hat, then strode forward, passing between the 2 rows of imperial guards. His steps were very slow, each step neither too wide nor too narrow. His expression was neither hurried nor impatient. His back was straight, and he leisurely walked forward step by step. Whether it was expression, bearing, or behavior, the current Wang Chong was impeccable. This kid clearly has someone guiding him. In a place where Wang Chong could not see, several officials of the Chamberlain of Dependencies, dressed in crimson ceremonial robes, stood on the high palace walls, the corners of their eyes twitching. From the moment Wang Chong left the palace, they had people watching him. In private, there were even painting experts depicting his every movement, expression, and behavior. Unfortunately, regardless of whether or not there were people around, Wang Chong's behavior was impeccable, and no fault could be found. If there was no one guiding him, then it would truly be strange. Don't worry. At the final stage, he will definitely run into problems. Everything has already been arranged. Another official of the Chamberlain of Dependencies said with a cold smile. An official from the Chamberlain of Dependencies sneered. As he spoke, he turned his head and gazed at the distant end of Taiji Palace. The imperial palace was solemn and dignified. Wang Chong walked along the passageway formed by the 2 rows of imperial guards. After a full hour, Wang Chong finally reached the coiling dragon pool at the end of the passageway. Turning his head, what appeared before Wang Chong was a long stairway made of white jade, several thousand steps long. On both sides of the stairway were golden guards of insignia in golden armor, each of them exuding an incredibly powerful aura. Their hands were pressed against the golden sabers at their waists. Their gazes focused forward, as if they would draw their sabers at any moment and cleave the person before them in 2. The chamberlains of imperial insignia were the cream of the crop in the royal palace, and their spirit and aura were incomparably strong. If one didn't possess a strong will, it would be easy for one to be intimidated by the sight before them. Wang Chong had experienced mountains of corpses and seas of blood in the southwest, and had been tempered by cruel wars. Not only did these golden guards have no effect on him, they were even affected by his indistinct aura, causing them to lose their grip on the golden sabers in their hands. Wang Chong had experienced the mountains of corpses and seas of blood of the southwest, and had been tempered through cruel wars. These golden guards of insignia not only had no effect on him, they were actually affected by his indistinct aura, causing them to almost lose their grip on their golden sabers. Going up the white jade stairs, every few hundred steps, there would be a platform that was more than 200 feet long. As they went up, the platform was filled with civil and military officials who were here to observe the ceremony. Their ranks were arranged from the lowest to the highest. All of them had solemn expressions on their faces. This is the Qilin son of the Wang clan? On the grandstand, the officials dressed in red robes looked over one after another. Many people had heard of Wang Chong's name during the regional commander's incident, but this was the first time they had seen him in person. No matter what, to be able to defeat Daluan Ruozhen and Huashu Huaitsong, he truly is a dragon among men. Just based on this admirable spirit and bearing, he's not someone the scions of the capital can compare to. Countless gazes were focused on Wang Chong. Whether they liked Wang Chong or not, they all had to admit that Wang Chong's demeanor was not something a normal person could compare to. He was truly a dragon among men. Chong, big uncle is truly happy for you. In the crowd, Wang Zhen stroked his beard and smiled, a gratified expression on his face. He had set out early in the morning, not to the Wang clan, but to the imperial palace to observe the ceremony. Wang Chong had returned victorious, and received an audience with the Holy Emperor in the depths of the palace. This was a great honor, and he wanted to personally witness it. Some people liked it while others hated it. High up on the imperial stairway of white jade, two eyes brimming with hostility were staring at Wang Chong as he slowly walked down the steps. So it's you. Don't get happy too early. At the highest point of the observation platform, Tongluo Great General Abusi stood like a mountain, his eyes fixed on the blazing Wang Chong on the steps. In his eyes, a biting cold snowstorm was brewing. In the Tang dynasty of the Central Plains, although Abus did not wield great authority like Geshu Han or Gao Xinji, as the leader of the Tongluo elite cavalry, Abus still carried an extraordinary weight. At the very least in terms of martial arts, Abus was a veteran great general, not one bit inferior to Geshu Han or Gao Xinji. In the regional commander's incident, Wang Chong had written a memorial pointing the spear at the Hu of the world. As a Hu great general, Abus had been forced to kneel before all the officials in the hall in order to show his loyalty. Abus's youngest son Abutong had challenged Wang Chong and ended up being hung on the banner of Deflecting Blade Manor by Wang Chong, losing all face in the process. With these two incidents, how could Abus not hate Wang Chong? Just like Abus, he was not the only one who hated Wang Chong and viewed him as a thorn in their side. On another viewing platform, King Qi was dressed in a crimson robe embroidered with golden threads, his eyes cold and sinister. From the moment Wang Chong appeared on the imperial stairway of white jade, King Qi had been viciously glaring at him. This was the first time King Qi had seen Wang Chong's true appearance, but this one time was enough to make King Qi hate Wang Chong to the bone. King Qi and the King of Song were the two main relatives of the Tang dynasty, and the two major factions of the imperial court. King Qi had laid down many plans to deal with the King of Song, but Wang Chong and the Wang clan had foiled all of them. Vast Crane Pavilion was one, Consort Taijin was another, and now, in the War of the Southwest, Wang Chong had once more displayed his brilliance, defeating powerful foes like Daluan Ruozhen and Huashu Huaitsong. This made King Qi feel like there was a dagger at his back, making him unable to eat or sleep in peace. If not for the fact that Wang Chong was currently in the limelight, with his every move targeted at him being watched and magnified by countless people, King Qi would have done everything in his power to kill him. Brat, I'll let you be smug for a while longer, but I won't let you be smug for too long, King Qi viciously said to himself. No matter what the crowd thought, whether they liked or disliked him, it meant nothing to Wang Chong. Today, He was the undisputed main character. The entire imperial palace, the capital, the entire world, and even the foreign vassal states bordering the Tang dynasty were all watching him. Wang Chong quickly ascended several hundred steps, quickly arriving at the center of the observation platform. Glancing at his big uncle and the other officials of the King of Song's faction, Wang Chong leisurely continued to ascend. That should be King Qi. As he passed by the middle-aged man dressed in a crimson robe embroidered with golden embroidery, Wang Chong could clearly sense a sharp gaze fixed on him. This gaze was both disdainful and brimming with intense hostility, as if it wanted nothing more than to skin Wang Chong alive. As a member of the imperial household, Wang Chong could only think of one person who could wear the noble and magnificent robes of a prince and act so fearlessly on the observation platform: King Qi. Although the Wang clan and King Qi's lineage could be considered a feud due to their relationship with the King of Song, this was the first time that Wang Chong had seen this illustrious King Qi of the Tang dynasty at such a close distance. Yet even under the gaze of this illustrious member of the imperial household, Wang Chong remained calm and unafraid, calmly walking over. Bastard! Seeing Wang Chong disregard him, King Qi could not help but be enraged, the killing intent in his heart flourishing. Along the way, Wang Chong passed by all sorts of hostile gazes: Tongluo Great General Abusi, King Qi's faction, various imperial censors. Wang Chong quickly brushed past them. Step by step, he slowly approached the top of the imperial stairway. A few steps away from the imperial stairway, several officials from the Bureau of Rights and the Chamberlain of Dependencies, dressed in crimson ceremonial robes, stood in a row, silently waiting. Wang Chong, step forward to receive the edict. One of the officials from the Bureau of Rights, dressed in crimson ceremonial robes and trimmed with gold, unfurled a true dragon edict and announced in a loud voice. To the left and right, no one noticed that two officials from the Chamberlain of Dependencies and the Bureau of Rights glanced down at Wang Chong, a cold light flashing through their eyes. This lowly subject receives the edict. Wang Chong straightened his robes, stepped forward, and respectfully bowed. Wang Chong, kneel and receive the edict, an official from the Chamberlain of Dependencies said. To the side, an official from the Chamberlain of Dependencies said. Wang Chong nodded. Unlike the time when he had been summoned by the Holy Emperor in the side hall, this formal audience to receive a reward was extremely complex. This was especially true for the commoners, who did not have any scholarly titles or official ranks. During the entire audience, there would be at least 2 or 3 imperial edicts, and in the process of receiving an imperial edict, one needed to kneel and pay their respects. On this point, the senior official that the King of Song had arranged for him had already made it clear. If he disobeyed, he would be suspected of looking down on the might of the heavens and be charged with the crime of disrespect. At the very least, his career would be ruined, and at the very worst, his entire clan would be exterminated. This was no trifling matter. Wang Chong naturally would not forget something like this. Swish! Wang Chong's crimson robes fluttered as he prepared to kneel. In an instant, several imperceptible gazes fell on Wang Chong. Even King Qi, who was watching from the back of the imperial stairway, revealed a hint of smugness and ridicule in his eyes. So what if he was the son of the 9th young master? So what if he was the hero of the Southwest? It was all because he was young and frivolous, lacking in experience. He had easily fallen into his trap with such a small scheme. In the end, he's still too young. King Qi gazed at Wang Chong's back, the corners of his mouth twitching into a disdainful smile. Even if he was a young genius who had defeated Daluan Ruozhen and Huoshu Wuzong, so what? The day the Holy Emperor bestowed his reward would also be the day he would fall, the day he would no longer be valued. At this moment, not a single one of the civil and military officials had noticed. Time seemed to slow down countless times. It seemed like Wang Chong was about to kneel. Something's wrong. Suddenly, a strange feeling welled up in his heart. Although he could see nothing and everything seemed normal, Wang Chong felt an intense sense of unease. Unknowingly, the atmosphere around him had subtly changed. Something's wrong. Chapter 649. Before setting off, the king of Song had warned him to be careful, because the king of Qi would definitely think of a way to deal with him. Moreover, it would be on the complicated etiquette that he was unfamiliar with. On the way here, Wang Chong had been extremely careful. Moreover, he had done all the things that the old official had said, and they had been flawless. Even the strictest official of the Board of Rites would not be able to find any problems with him. However, Wang Chong was certain that something had gone wrong. Moreover, it was definitely something that he had not noticed, but it was an extremely important problem. However, the Holy Emperor had conferred a reward and entered the palace for an audience. Logically speaking, the king of Qi should not have been so bold as to brazenly tamper with the ceremony in such a place. But where had he tampered with it? Wang. His gaze unconsciously swept over the last few steps. Suddenly, Wang Chong's mind jolted as he suddenly remembered something. The old official had once mentioned a number. 9 was the yang line. All things should be avoided, so 9 represented the extreme. There was the saying of the 9-5 supremacy and the 5-clawed golden dragon, which all represented the emperor. Among all the etiquette, the words 9 and 5 were especially taboo. One had to be extremely careful, because this was the greatest offense. Wang Chong's gaze was like lightning as he quickly swept over the last few steps of white jade in front of him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When he counted to 9, Wang Chong's expression suddenly changed as he suddenly understood something. These bastards! Li Yi glanced at the officials from the Board of Rites and the Chamberlain of Dependencies, a sharp look flitting across his eyes. The white jade steps in front of the Taiji Palace were known as the Path of the True Dragon. Before the Holy Emperor appeared and was conscripted, one could not set foot on the top. This was especially so for people like him, who had no scholarly honors or official positions. They were different from officials and needed to be even more careful. Otherwise, it would be a great disrespect. There were 9 true dragons, so the last 9 steps of the imperial stairway could never be touched. When these officials from the Board of Rites and the Chamberlain of Dependencies announced the decree, they had purposely stood a few steps back. If he had not been careful, he would have knelt on the last 9 steps of white jade, which would have been a crime of offending the emperor. This was the greatest disrespect among all the etiquettes of an audience. King Qi. A thought flashed through Wang Chong's mind, and he instantly understood something. Wang Chong did not know what the consequences of these officials from the Bureau of Rites and Chamberlain of Dependencies would be, but this act of disrespect was probably enough for the Prince of Qi to deal with him. In the past, Wang Chong wouldn't have cared if the Holy Emperor bestowed upon him anything. Even if King Qi succeeded, given the power of the Wang clan, as a clan of ministers and generals, there was nothing to fear. But that was then, and this was now. Wang Chong needed to have a high enough status to realize his ambitions and dreams. He needed to save the world and its people. Wang. As these thoughts flashed through Wang Chong's mind, he quickly came up with an idea. Wang. As he knelt, Wang Chong's loose robes fluttered, and he calmly took a step back. Thump. His knee landed on the 10th step. Wang Chong received the decree. Wang Chong raised his hands, his handsome voice echoing throughout the imperial palace. Shua. The eyes of the officials from the Bureau of Rites and the Chamberlain of Dependencies jumped, and their expressions instantly changed. The slightest error could lead to a great error. Wang Chong had only taken a slight step back, and their scheme against Wang Chong had immediately failed. Moreover, what made them most uneasy was that they could not determine whether Wang Chong had discovered something and deliberately avoided it, or if it was just an accident. Bastard thing. Wasn't everything already arranged? How could there be such a careless mistake? On the viewing platform in the back, King Qi, dressed in his crimson robe embroidered with golden threads, was at first flabbergasted as he stared at Wang Chong. It was like he had been slapped in the face, and then his face turned ashen and savage. The smugness that had appeared on his lips, as if he was waiting to see Wang Chong fall into his trap, instantly vanished. If looks could kill, the officials from the Bureau of Rites and the Chamberlain of Dependencies in front of the imperial stairway would have had their hearts pierced by 10,000 arrows, their heads rolling on the ground. My lords, hearing that there was no movement from above, Wang Chong raised his head. The officials were stunned, but they quickly regained their wits. By the will of the heavens, the emperor summons. The youngest son of the Wang clan, Wang Chong, has expended all the wealth of his clan and prepared his own crossbows. In the southwest, he defeated Daluan Ruozhen, Jelifeng and Huashu Wuzong, and routed the combined Mengshi, Yusang army in the southwest. He has rendered service to the Tang dynasty, to the country, and to the millions of people of the southwest. He is specially summoned into the palace to be rewarded as a sign of the emperor's will. The official from the Bureau of Rights holding the decree was somewhat pale, but he still restrained himself, not letting any of it show. Long live His Majesty, long live His Majesty. Wang Chong respectfully bowed in accordance with the etiquette the old official had taught him, then straightened his back and looked at the three people in front of him. Young Master Wang, there are 3 imperial decrees in total. This is the first one. Please take it. Many thanks. Wang Chong faintly smiled as he swept his gaze over them. Then, he took the decree from the leading official and stood up. However, in the eyes of the officials from the Board of Rights and the Chamberlain of Dependencies, this faint smile made their hearts jump. It was as if this 17-year-old youth in front of them had completely seen through their secrets. This was a very strange feeling. These officials, who were clearly much older than Wang Chong, felt incredibly guilty when they saw Wang Chong's faint smile. Young Master Wang, His Majesty has not appeared yet. Wait here for the summons. After giving this order, they hurriedly left, not daring to linger a moment longer. The officials from the Bureau of Rights and Bureau of Personnel had just left, but the atmosphere in front of the Taiji platform did not grow cold. On the contrary, it grew even more fervent, and many people began to look forward to what was to come. This was the first time Wang Chong had received a reward from the Holy Emperor, so he did not understand much about the proceedings. But the old courtiers on the viewing platform knew it. Wang Chong had rendered an enormous service in the southwest, so his reward was certain to be very generous. And according to the usual procedure, there would be 3 imperial decrees. The first imperial decree was to announce the will of the Holy Emperor, to summon the Holy Emperor to the world. But the second imperial decree was the true content of the reward from the Holy Emperor. But even now, no one knew just what sort of reward the Holy Emperor would bestow upon Wang Chong. The victory in the southwest is no small matter. The Mengshi, Yusang army lost more than 400,000 soldiers, even more than the Tang dynasty. For such an enormous service to be witnessed by the entire world, I wonder what sort of reward he will receive? There will definitely be no lack of gold and silver. In order to aid the southwest, the Wang clan spent several million taels of gold. His Majesty will definitely give him a substantial compensation. I wonder what other rewards he will receive. It's been a very long time since the Tang dynasty has bestowed a title of nobility, and the Bureau of Rights has kept a tight hold on it. His Majesty will probably make an exception this time. I wonder if it will be a baron, a viscount, or perhaps a count. But aren't there many first-rank officials in the imperial court who are only counts? Wang Chong is so young. Can he really become one? There's talk of bestowing a title of general in society, but Wang Chong has never entered the army. Although the Kunwa training camp can be considered part of the military, it doesn't have any military personnel, and it certainly isn't recorded in the books of the military. To suddenly be promoted to general is too much of a promotion. I wonder how His Majesty will get around it. In private, the crowd began to discuss the matter. No one was more interested in this matter than Wang Chong's big uncle. Wang Zhenchonger, from now on, you're going to soar into the heavens. Wang Zhen stroked his black beard as he gazed at the back of Wang Chong at the top of the white steps, his heart bursting with excitement. He was no less curious than anyone else about the reward the emperor would bestow upon Wang Chong. But although he didn't know what it was, there was one thing that Wang Zhen was sure of. Given his great achievements in the southwest, the reward this time would not be low. Time slowly passed, and Wang Chong's hand gripped the imperial edict. He stood motionless on the white steps, silently waiting. It seemed like only a second had passed, but it also seemed like countless eons. Wang Chong still hadn't seen anything, but he suddenly heard the clattering of footsteps. These footsteps were neither fast nor slow, each step taken with great ease. As these footsteps echoed, Wang Chong seemed to see a massive golden wave, seemingly imbued with the strength of 10,000 June, howling toward him. Rumble! In this golden wave, the entire Taiji Palace, even the white steps, seemed to tremble. What powerful strength! Wang Chong blinked as he came back to his senses. The Taiji Palace was the imperial palace, the center of the Tang dynasty. It naturally could not be shaken. And with the world's supreme expert, the Holy Emperor, presiding over it, it was even more impossible for anyone to shake it. And there was no need to mention the many officials on the white steps. There was no doubt that all this was just his imagination. But for someone of his current level of cultivation to be able to shake him like this, one could easily imagine the depth of this person's cultivation. Wang Chong raised his head, and at this moment, he saw a slightly plump figure dressed in the cloud-embroidered robe of a eunuch. His footsteps were calm and unhurried. "Young Master Wang, we meet again." The eunuch in the cloud-embroidered robe held an imperial edict in his hands. He smiled at Wang Chong like a spring breeze, like a smiling Maitreya Buddha, naturally making one feel close to him. "Eunuch Gao." Wang Chong's eyes widened as he instantly recognized this eunuch. This was the eunuch who had personally come to see him during the regional commander's incident. Besides this, Wang Chong also knew that this eunuch had a name that could shake the ancients and dazzle the contemporaries. The chief eunuch of the inner court, Eunuch Gao Lishir. Unlike 5th Prince Li Heng's future #1 evil minister, Li Jingzhong, Gao Lishir had another name that could shake the ancients and dazzle the contemporaries. The #1 virtuous official in all of history. In all the dynasties of the Central Plains, there was only one person who could receive this title. Gao Lishir's surname was not Gao, but Sheng Feng, whose real name was Feng Yuanyi. There were very few people who knew this name now. When the previous emperor had bestowed the surname upon him, he had changed Feng to Gao, resulting in the name Gao Lishir. Gao Lishir had accompanied the Holy Emperor his entire life as he grew up, and he had been loyal and devoted to the Holy Emperor, never leaving or abandoning him. In his last life, when the Holy Emperor passed away, Wang Chong heard the news. This eunuch Gao at the Holy Emperor's side was so shocked by the grievous news that he vomited blood and died. Throughout the ages, throughout all the dynasties, there was only one such person. Chapter 650. Eunuch Gao, this student pays his respects. Wang Chong quickly turned his head and respectfully bowed. The scions of the capital often silently criticized these eunuchs who had lost their power. But Wang Chong was different. He knew that this eunuch before him was actually a virtuous eunuch. Whether or not he was a eunuch, he was loyal to the country, to the sovereign, and to the world. This sort of person was worthy of respect. Moreover, when he was imprisoned, Eunuch Gao had shown him kindness. Haha, the last time we met in the prison, I already knew that young master was not an ordinary person. Today, I finally saw that this was the case. In the War of the Southwest, young master made a great contribution and did not disappoint His Majesty. Young Master Gao faintly smiled as he raised the imperial decree. Unlike other eunuchs, Eunuch Gao had never referred to himself as this one or this one, but always used I. In the depths of the palace, he was the only person who could receive this honor. From this, one could see how much the Son of Heaven favored him. Eunuch Gao is too kind. The rise and fall of the world is the responsibility of every man. Wang Chong is only doing his duty. Wang Chong gave a slight bow. Oh. Eunuch Gao's eyes brightened as he looked in surprise at Wang Chong. The rise and fall of the world is the responsibility of every man? Interesting. Young master's way of thinking is truly different from the average person's. Young master has truly lived up to His Majesty's favor. In the world that Wang Chong had come from, the rise and fall of the world is the responsibility of every man, was a phrase that everyone was familiar with, but it was clear that no one in this world had ever heard of it. This was clearly the case for Eunuch Gao as well. Wang Chong received the decree. Eunuch Gao nodded. Without the slightest hesitation, he spread open his hands, and unfurled the second imperial decree. Wang Chong receives the decree. Eunuch Gao's resounding voice resounded over the imperial stairway, reaching both inside and outside the imperial palace. In an instant, both inside and outside the imperial city, regardless of whether it was the guards, maids, or even the distant Yuzhen palace, countless people pricked up their ears, revealing expressions of attentiveness. The War of the Southwest was no small matter. It concerned the fate of the entire Tang dynasty. Many people were curious as to how Wang Chong would be rewarded. But before the imperial decree was issued, no one knew. King Qi, Abusi, Duan Xian, and many of the other officials, including Wang Zhen, were completely focused. Even Wang Chong, standing before the White Jade Steps, was the same. Although he had experienced many mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and his spirit was very strong, this reward was very important to Wang Chong. However, even he did not know what kind of reward the Holy Emperor would give him. Because all of this was beyond the development of history, at least in the previous life, this kind of thing had never happened. By the will of the heavens, the Emperor decrees. The son of the Wang clan, Wang Chong, has pacified Mengshi Zhao and Uzun in the War of the Southwest and rendered meritorious service to the country. He shall be rewarded with 3 million taels of gold, 30,000 bushels of pearls, 100,000 bolts of silk, a marquis title, and the title of Young Marquis. Rumble. The words Young Marquis were like a boulder falling into a lake. The imperial palace was in an uproar, and the viewing platform was in an even greater uproar. Marquis. The Holy Emperor has actually made him a marquis. He's only 17, but he's already a marquis. Such a thing has never happened before. In the 300 years since the establishment of the Tang dynasty, including the previous dynasty, no one has ever become a marquis at such a young age. I've been in charge of the Bureau of Rights for so many years, and I know so much about the ancient records of the imperial court that there has never been a young marquis title. For His Majesty to give him this title, doesn't that mean that he is the only marquis among the millions of youths in the world? Just what sort of high regard is this? The young marquis, putting aside the millions in gold and jewels, His Majesty has even made him a marquis. Such a thing has never happened before. Doesn't that mean that his status is above that of many first-ranked ministers in the court? The viewing platform was in an uproar, and everyone's faces were instantly filled with shock. Many people had speculated that the Holy Emperor would reward Wang Chong handsomely upon his return from the southwest. But Wang Chong had no scholarly rank, and his name was not even on the roster of the hundreds of thousands of soldiers of the Tang dynasty. This was a serious flaw. Thus, many people had concluded that no matter how generous His Majesty's reward was, it would not surpass that of a count. But no one had expected the Holy Emperor to reconsider the matter. In a situation where Wang Chong had no scholarly rank, no official position, and was not even registered on the roster, the Holy Emperor had jumped 10 ranks and promoted him to marquis. His status was so high that it even surpassed that of many important ministers of the imperial court. Even Wang Chong's big uncle Wang Zhen was overshadowed by Wang Chong's brilliance. Marquis. Our Wang clan actually produced a youth. Good. Wang Zhen stroked his sparse beard, his eyes bright, and his red robe trembled in excitement. He felt like he was being comforted. The Wang clan had actually produced a 17-year-old young marquis in his generation. This was completely unprecedented. Of all the great clans in the capital, not a single 17-year-old had ever been made a marquis. The Wang clan was the only one. Chong'er, good job. Big uncle did not misjudge you. With you here, our Wang clan is certain to be even more glorious than it is now. Wang Zhen was extremely excited. Bastard. The young marquis. His Majesty actually bestowed the title of marquis on this brat, who's still wet behind the ears. Since ancient times, when has the Tang dynasty ever produced such a young marquis? This is absurd. Unlike Wang Zhen, King Qi's face was ashen and nasty. Not only had Wang Chong escaped his plot, he had even obtained the title of Young Marquis that the Holy Emperor had specially created for him. King Qi had never imagined that this would happen. The Wang clan following at the king of Song's side was already difficult enough to deal with. Now that Wang Chong had become the young marquis, wouldn't they be even more difficult to deal with? At this moment, King Qi felt like a dagger was pressing down on his back. Damn it, damn it. King Qi clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. He wanted to leave in a huff, but after the victory in the southwest, the Holy Emperor had bestowed the title of Marquis, and all the civil and military officials were present. Even if he were as bold as the heavens, he would not dare to mess around and ruin the ceremony in front of the Holy Emperor. But just when everyone believed that the Holy Emperor's bestowal to Wang Chong had come to an end, it was far from over. In addition, Wang Chong is young and intelligent. In order to commend his achievements in the southwest and serve as a model for the world, an exception will be made, and he will be granted a fief. The location of the conferment will be jointly decided by the Bureau of Rights and the Bureau of Revenue after the ceremony. Boom! It was like a stone thrown into a lake. If the matter of Wang Chong being conferred a marquis could be said to have taken everyone by surprise and stunned them. But now, when Wang Chong announced that he could enjoy the privileges of a county, it gave everyone an unprecedented shock. A fief. His Majesty has actually given him a fief. The Tang dynasty has been established for 300-some years, and ever since Emperor Taizong, no one has been granted a fief. This is a real nobility. Just what virtue or ability does this brat have for him to receive such an honor? This is a violation of the ancestral laws. On the observation platform, an old imperial censor finally couldn't help but shout. He could accept the Holy Emperor conferring the title of Marquis on Wang Chong, but for His Majesty to give him a fief, even the smallest of fiefs, was unacceptable. Absurd. King Qi's face twitched, his expression contorting. Finally, he could no longer restrain himself. A 17-year-old brat, still wet behind the ears, with no scholarly honors and no official rank. Giving him the title of Marquis is one thing, but to give him a fief as well, this is absurd. Swish. Prince Qi could not bear to watch any longer. With a flick of his golden embroidered robe, he suddenly turned around and left, not giving the slightest bit of face in front of everyone's eyes. The ceremony was no small matter. Not even King Qi dared to lightly disrupt it. But now King Qi could no longer endure it. He had come today to be humiliated. The conferment of Wang Chong as a marquis and a fief, each one was like a vicious slap to his face. He now felt that everyone around him was laughing at him. Even that old fellow Wang Zhen was laughing at him behind his back. Needless to say, there was no need to mention Wang Chong at the top of the imperial stairway. Given King Qi's temperament, how could he possibly endure this? Your Highness! Yao Guangyi exclaimed in shock. He had remembered his father's words today. Do your best to keep a low profile. Given the Yao clan's way of doing things, this wasn't really a big deal. There were very few things that the Yao clan could not tolerate. But he hadn't expected King Qi to leave in a huff. Wang Chong wasn't the only one present in the viewing hall. And this wasn't a matter of giving face to Wang Chong. If King Qi were to willfully leave now, it would be disastrous. Hurry and stop His Highness. Yao Guangyi wanted to stop King Qi, but it was already too late. King Qi's martial arts were far superior to his, and he had always been arrogant. If he wanted to do something, who could stop him? Your Highness King Qi, where do you think you're going? Suddenly, a chuckling voice like that of the Maitreya Buddha came from the top of the imperial stairway. It was Eunuch Gao's voice. Damned eunuch! Mind your own business. King Qi's face was ashen. He didn't even turn his head, cursing as he walked. He was a member of the royal family. If he wanted to leave, who could stop him? But in the next moment, without the slightest warning, the earth quaked and the mountains swayed. In the blink of an eye, a boundless and terrifying energy that caused the world to lose its splendor suddenly erupted from the earth beneath King Qi's feet, like a flash flood. King Qi himself was an extremely formidable expert, but this energy was even more powerful than him. Ah! With a loud cry, King Qi was struck by this terrifying energy and sent flying high into the air. Buzz! All was silent. Everyone on the viewing platform was as quiet as cicadas in winter. Even Wang Chong looked at Eunuch Gao in shock. What a high cultivation! Wang Chong blinked his eyes in shock. He knew a little about what level of expert King Qi was. Unlike the other imperial princes, King Qi had been infatuated with martial arts ever since he was a child. Thus, his martial arts were actually much higher than the King of Songs. Even though Wang Chong had reached the imperial martial realm, he was still no match for King Qi. However, Eunuch Gao was able to send King Qi flying with just a wave of his hand, without the slightest trace of worldly aura. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.